Ugh, my head hurts so bad. When Ian propped his head up with one hand and tried to recall what had happened the previous day, he seemed to have been drinking at a friend's place, but he had no memory of how he'd gotten back home. Shaking his head, he sat up from the sofa and headed for the water dispenser to pour himself a glass of water. Boom! A deafening explosion echoed from outside, jolting when Ian wide awake. He hurried over to the balcony to look out, and the sight before his eyes made his pupils contract sharply. Hundreds of pedestrians lay collapsed on the pavement. Some stirred back to consciousness, while others had turned into zombies. They were lunging at the unaffected, ordinary people around them. An out-of-control sedan had crashed into a roadside wall and blown up. That was the explosion he'd just heard. He was still frozen, staring in shock at the catastrophic scene outside, when a beastly growl suddenly rumbled from the doorway. His heart lurched, and he spun around to glance at the entrance. His blood ran cold when he saw the door was slightly ajar, left unlatched. He must have stumbled home in a drunken daze and forgotten to shut it properly last night. He sprinted toward the door to slam it closed. His footsteps alerted the zombie lingering outside. Before he could reach the threshold, the door was yanked open, and the creature charged straight at him with a raucous snarl. Adrenaline flooded his veins in an instant, and raw survival instinct guided his split-second reaction. Without hesitation, he whirled and darted into the bedroom, slamming the door shut and twisting the lock tight behind him. The zombie slammed its fists against the door non-stop, snarling ferociously on the other side. When Ian pressed his full weight against the wood with both hands, his heart hammered wildly in his chest as his mind raced to think of a plan. Just then, a voice echoed inside his head. Civilization Spark system binding complete. When Ian stiffened all over. A system? He quickly spoke out loud. System, what can you do? Bang, bang, bang. The bedroom door shook violently, and faint creaking sounds came from the lock. No reply came, and his heart sank. Lines of text suddenly floated into view over the door. Item, ordinary wooden door material upgrade cost. 10 energy points design upgrade cost. 10 energy points function upgrade cost. 10 energy points. Item modification cost. 50 energy points current energy points. 100 when Ian's eyes lit up. The system let him upgrade items? An idea popped into his head. He glanced at a Tang horizontal sword sitting on his bookshelf, strode over, and picked it up. He silently thought, upgrade this sword, and more lines of text appeared before him. Item, low-quality Tang horizontal sword material upgrade cost. 10 energy points sharpness upgrade cost. 10 energy points function upgrade cost. 10 energy points item modification cost. 50 energy points current energy points. 100. When Ian didn't pause. With a thought, he selected every upgrade option except modification. The sword in his hands rippled with transformation. Its formerly rough surface grew sleek and refined. He hefted it, noticing it had also gained weight. He drew the blade from its sheath in one sharp motion. Sparks showered outward, and a wave of heat washed over him. The blade blazed with roaring flames. He slid the sword back into its sheath, and the fire faded along with the warmth. Bang, bang, bang. He turned back to the door. The lock was warping badly, and it wouldn't hold for much longer. He rushed to the wardrobe and pulled out a full set of windbreaker gear to put on, then focused his gaze on the clothes covering his body. He thought silently, upgrade this windbreaker. A new text popped up. Item, windbreaker set material upgrade cost. 10 energy points design upgrade cost. 10 energy points function upgrade cost. 10 energy points item modification cost. 50 energy points current energy points. 70. Once more, he picked all 3 standard upgrades and skipped modification. His windbreaker shimmered and reshaped itself into a full military tactical combat uniform. Crash. The door could take no more and burst open. The zombie drooled thick, viscous fluid as it snarled and lunged straight for him. His gaze hardened. He drew the flaming sword and swung it toward the creature's neck. Squelch. The blade cut through flesh as easily as tofu, severing the zombie's head. The body crashed to the floor at when Ian's feet from its own momentum, thick green blood splattering across the tiles. He could now see the zombie wore a janitor's uniform. It must have been the building cleaner who'd turned while tending to the hallway outside. He sheathed the sword, swallowing his nausea as he hurried to shut the front door, then stumbled into the bathroom and retched violently. Ugh! He clung to the toilet bowl for a long while before steadying himself. Leaning against the wall to slump back onto the sofa, his pulse gradually slowing. Only then did he clear his mind and pull out his phone. There was still cell service. He'd originally planned to call his younger sister Wenishu, who was at university. But the chaos he'd just witnessed made him hesitate. What if she was hiding somewhere quiet, trying to avoid drawing zombies? To stay safe, he sent her a text instead. Little sister, how's your side of things? I'm completely safe here. He shot another message to his best friend afterward. As for his parents, they'd passed away years ago. Now that he had a moment to spare, he turned his attention to figuring out the new system. He gripped the sword in his hand and thought, item information panel. Lines of text floated into sight once again. Item, kerosene Tang horizontal sword. Description, a finely crafted, ultra-sharp Tang horizontal sword. Its sheath holds kerosene and flint stones, igniting flames along the blade every time it is drawn. It all clicked for him. The fire came from the kerosene mechanism inside the sheath. He couldn't help but marvel. He'd bought this sword on a live stream for 99 yuan on a whim, and now it was his lifeline. After studying the sword, he shifted his focus to the military tactical uniform on his body. Item, military tactical combat uniform. Description, a high-grade tactical uniform with excellent breathability, waterproof coating, and moderate physical damage resistance. A thought struck him. If the system could upgrade any item, could he turn a toy gun into a real firearm? He acted on the idea at once, rummaging around the room until he found a plastic toy Glock pistol that fired foam darts. With quiet anticipation, he thought, upgrade. Item, plastic toy handgun material upgrade cost. 20 energy points design upgrade cost. 20 energy points function upgrade cost. 20 energy points item modification cost. 100 energy points current energy points. 42. When Ian noted the slight increase in his energy total, he must have gained points from killing the janitor zombie. After careful consideration, he chose to upgrade the material and design specifications only. The plastic toy gun twisted and reshaped in his grasp, transforming into a heavy, metallic Glock pistol. He pulled out the magazine to inspect it. The foam darts had been replaced with 17 brass 9mm rounds. He focused his thoughts once more, and the item stats panel appeared. Item, Glock pistol description. A base model Glock handgun with no aftermarket attachments, holding a maximum of 17 9mm rounds per magazine. Reading the description filled him with a strong sense of security. He tucked the pistol into the holster sewn onto his tactical uniform's waistband. Ding! A notification pinged on his phone. He picked it up to see a message from his sister. Brother, I'm fine. I'm locked in my dorm room. Luckily, I don't have classes today. All my roommates left for lectures, so I'm alone here. A weight lifted off his chest after reading her reply. He typed back quickly. I'm glad you're all right. How much food do you have to last you? It took her a while to respond. I've got some snacks and instant noodles, probably enough for 2 or 3 days at most. When Ian frowned, 2 or 3 days wasn't nearly enough time. The streets were overrun with zombies, and her university campus was more than 10 kilometers away. There would surely be hordes of the creatures inside the school grounds too. He fired off another urgent message. Little sister, stay dead silent in your room and do not step outside for any reason. Never open the door, no matter who knocks. I'll come get you as soon as I can. Cell service might cut out any time, so keep checking your phone to stay in touch with me. Right after he sent the text, an incoming call popped up on his screen. Zhang Hao, his closest friend. Hey Ian, how's everything over there? I'm holed up at home, safe for now. I'm good. Wait there, I'll come find you. There are zombies everywhere outside. How are you even going to get here? There was clear confusion in Zhang Hao's voice after a short pause. Don't worry, I've got a way to get through. All right, just be extra careful out there. His friend fell silent for a moment before answering. When Ian hung up and stood to grab a large travel backpack, packing every useful supply he could find. 7 or 8 bottles of mineral water, a metal case of compressed biscuits, a set of first aid supplies, the leftover foam toy gun darts. He stuffed the bag full until it bulged. He pulled on silicone gloves and a disposable face mask, then dragged the headless zombie corpse from his bedroom to the front entrance. He checked the hallway security camera feed. No zombies lingered outside. Before hauling the body out the front door, he mopped up all the bloodstains in the bedroom, slung the full backpack over his shoulders, and stepped outside. He locked his door and turned to head for the stairwell when the door of the apartment directly opposite his swung open. A middle-aged couple stepped out, forcing awkward smiles at him. Shaoan, where are you off to with all that gear? When Ian tightened his grip on the Tang's sword at his side and smiled faintly. I'm heading out for something. Did you two need anything? He'd only ever exchanged casual greetings with the neighbors. They'd never been close. The man looked sheepish and spoke up. Shaoan, since you're heading out anyway, could you spare some of your extra food for us? Or even leave your apartment key with us? We can wait out the rescue teams more comfortably inside your place. He took a couple slow steps forward as he spoke, still grinning. When Ian frowned and shot back, why would I give any of that to you? The man's tone turned sharp with irritation. We're neighbors. We're supposed to help each other out. Besides, you might not even make it back alive. What's the harm in handing over your key? He kept advancing, closing the gap until less than a meter separated them. When Ian sensed malice in his movements and stepped back, ready to draw his sword, the man anticipated his move and lunged forward before he could grip the hilt. One hand clamped down on Ian's wrist to pin his sword arm, the other grabbed the blade scabbard, and he slammed his shoulder hard into Ian's chest. Caught off guard, Ian crashed to the floor, the sword slipped out of his grasp and landed in the man's hands. A sharp pain bloomed in his chest from the impact. The man let out a cold snarl and drew the sword, waves of heat rolling off the flaming blade. His eyes lit up with greed as he admired the weapon. What a magnificent blade! No wonder it could chop a zombie's head clean off. The woman beside him nodded rapidly, her face glowing with envy. You're brilliant, honey. Both of them were too fixated on the sword to notice when Ian, still sprawled on the floor. He had pulled the pistol from his waistband and racked a bullet into the chamber with a crisp click. The man tilted the blazing sword toward the ground and twisted to leer down at him. Kid, this apartment and all your stuff is mine now. He never finished the sentence. Bang! A gunshot echoed through the hallway. The bullet struck the man square in the head. Blood splattered across the wall, and he collapsed to the ground mid-sneer. Warm blood splattered all over the woman's face. She snapped out of her daze and opened her mouth to scream. Bang! A second shot hit her square in the chest. Her face twisted with despair as she crumpled beside her husband. When Ian holstered the pistol, retrieved his sword from the man's lifeless hand, and sprinted down the hallway toward the stairs after unlocking the building's main safety door. He avoided the elevator entirely. If zombies clustered around the elevator lobby, he would be trapped with no escape route. He moved as quietly as he could to avoid drawing attention, knowing the two gunshots had likely alerted every zombie within earshot. He made it to the ground floor without incident and spotted several zombies loitering outside the building's security gate. None of them knew how to work the locking mechanism to get inside. He didn't pause, hurrying down the staircase to the underground parking garage and exiting through the basement safety door. No zombies blocked this entrance as he'd feared. Stepping into the garage, he scanned the area and spotted only two wandering zombies nearby. He wasted no time walking toward his parking spot. The two creatures spotted him and charged with snarls. Fear had faded from his system after his first encounter. He drew the sword and cut both down with two clean strokes. He unlocked his SUV and slid into the driver's seat, thinking upgrade item to pull up the system panel. Lines of text appeared in front of his eyes. Item, fuel-powered SUV material upgrade cost, 200 energy points. Power source upgrade cost, 200 energy points. Function upgrade cost, 200 energy points. Item modification cost, 1,000 energy points. Current energy points, 5. When Ian furrowed his brow. If each zombie awarded 2 energy points, his total should have been 6. It seemed the point reward varied depending on the individual zombie. He pushed the thought aside, tossed his backpack onto the passenger seat, and pulled up a map on his phone to plan a route that steered clear of the city center. He then started the engine and drove out of the residential complex. Zombies swarmed toward the car, drawn by the engine's roar, slamming their bodies against the vehicle's exterior. When Ian stayed calm and slammed his foot on the gas, plowing straight through every zombie in his path. He swerved around abandoned vehicles, ignored the broken traffic lights, and sped along the road. Before sharply turning onto a quieter side street at a crossroads, he was now within 1 kilometer of Zhanghao's neighborhood, an old district densely packed with far more wandering zombies. He floored the accelerator and drove deep into the old town, crashing through 7 or 8 zombies along the way. Dozens more chased the car from behind. He parked at the base of a low-rise building near Zhanghao's house, leaving his backpack in the passenger seat. He locked the car, climbed onto the hood, and jumped up onto the roof in a series of quick leaps. The pursuing zombies milled around below the building, snarling and flailing their arms up at him. He ran across the connected rooftops until he found a stretch clear of zombies, then used the building pipes to climb back down to street level. He'd shaken off the horde, but a few stray wandering zombies spotted him dropping from the roof and charged forward, roaring. When Ian drew his sword once more, cutting them down one after another with effortless swings, he reached Zhanghao's residence, a private 4-story self-built house. He pulled a spare key from his pocket. Zhanghao had given it to him ages ago, so he could drop by any time, and unlocked the front door to step inside. He climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor and knocked on Zhanghao's bedroom door. Hey you, open up, I'm here. The door flew open, and Zhanghao stared at him in complete shock. Bro, how did you even get here? There are zombies everywhere outside. How'd you make it over so fast? When Ian tossed his hair back with a smug grin. You know who I am. Obviously I've got skills. Zhang Hao gave him a thumbs up. That's insane. You're seriously something else. When Ian's smile faded, his tone turning serious. Have you gotten in touch with your older sister? How's she holding up right now? Zhang Hao nodded, his expression heavy with worry. She texted me saying she's hiding in a storage closet at her office, and she can't get out safely for the time being. When Ian frowned, we can't waste any time. We need to head over to get her right away. I'll pack some essential supplies first. Zhang Hao turned to head back into his room. But when Ian held him back, no need to pack much. I've already brought plenty of necessities. Just grab some extra food and water from your place. Minutes later, Zhang Hao reappeared with a bulging backpack slung over his shoulders. When Ian suddenly remembered his friend had no weapon yet, and spoke up. Wait, do you still have that birthday gift I gave you a while back? Zhang Hao blinked in confusion, then rummaged in a corner and pulled out a hollow metal staff shaped like the golden cudgel from mythology. He tilted his head. This thing's hollow metal. It's probably not great for fighting off zombies, isn't it? When Ian didn't answer him directly, taking the staff into his own hands and thinking silently, upgrade. Item, hollow metal staff material upgrade cost. 10 energy points design upgrade cost. 10 energy points. Function upgrade cost. 10 energy points item modification cost. 50 energy points current energy points. 32 when Ian glanced at his remaining energy count and raised an eyebrow. He had exactly enough points to unlock all 3 standard upgrade options. The staff rippled with transformation in his grasp. Its surface grew etched with delicate carvings, and the metal felt smooth and perfectly balanced in his palm. He twirled it through a few fluid staff flourishes with one hand, then thought, item information. Item, premium voice-activated telescopic metal staff description. A metal staff that can extend or retract on command from its wielder. When Ian's eyes lit up at the new built-in function, he said to the golden staff, shrink, shrink. The staff in his hand seemed to sense his command and slowly contracted. Every time he shouted shrink, the iron rod shortened by 10 centimeters. Zhang Hao, who was checking his backpack nearby, looked over at the sound. His eyes went wide, and he blurted out an expletive. Holy hell, this golden staff you bought me has this function? When Ian smiled and handed the staff to Zhang Hao. Try making it grow bigger. After messing around with it for a while, Zhang Hao found the staff could only expand to a maximum length of 2 meters, but that was more than enough for their needs. One of them, clad in tactical combat gear and gripping a long blade, and the other, dressed in a black leather suit with the golden staff in hand, crept quietly out of the house. When Ian tossed a stone to lure a wandering zombie over, then gestured toward Zhang Hao. Zhang Hao nodded, white-knuckling the staff as a thin layer of sweat beaded on his forehead. The zombie snarled and charged straight at Zhang Hao. When Ian tightened his grip on his blade, ready to rush in and back him up at a moment's notice if things went south, Zhang Hao watched the zombie close in, less than 2 meters away from him. He suddenly let out a sharp shout and swung the golden staff hard into the zombie's skull. The blow sent the zombie staggering to the ground. He raised the staff again and again, slamming it relentlessly into the zombie's head. At first, dark red blood splattered out, and later pale brain matter oozed onto the pavement, yet he did not stop swinging. When Ian hurried over, grabbed Zhang Hao, and pulled him aside. That's enough, stop hitting it. It's dead, completely dead. Zhang Hao finally froze, staring at the mangled zombie on the ground. Ugh. Though when Ian had grown somewhat accustomed to killing zombies, the gruesome sight churned his stomach, and he doubled over vomiting beside Zhang Hao. Between retches, he glanced at his remaining energy points. Current energy points, 4. When Ian thought to himself, so energy points count even when someone else lands the killing blow on a zombie. The two recovered after a few minutes of heaving. By then, the noise they'd made had drawn several more wandering zombies, all snarling as they charged toward them. When Ian shot an exasperated glance at Zhang Hao, watch how I take care of these things. He drew his long blade, flames coiling around its edge, and charged the horde. With one clean slash, he severed the head of the leading zombie, his movements smooth and fluid. After beheading the last zombie, he struck what he thought was a cool pose and glanced back at Zhang Hao, who stood there dumbfounded. Zhang Hao swallowed hard. Dude, how are you this strong? When Ian rolled his eyes. It's not that I'm overpowered, it's that you need more practice, kid. Zhang Hao stared longingly at the flame-wreathed blade in his hands. When Ian saw right through his thoughts, don't get any ideas. I can't fight with a long staff, so I'm not trading. Zhang Hao sighed in disappointment. All right then. The pair slipped back toward when Ian's SUV, only to find dozens of zombies swarming all around the vehicle. He thought quickly and came up with a plan. lure a few zombies into the alley with stones each time, then work together to eliminate them one by one. They'd carried out this tactic twice when a hushed voice drifted down from above. They looked up to see a middle-aged man in his 30s standing on a second-floor balcony, speaking softly. "Young men, take me with you." Zhang Hao glanced at Wen Ian, silently asking for his call. When Ian whispered back to the man, "We can't. Where we're going is extremely dangerous. We can't bring you along." The man refused to give up and begged quietly. "I barely have any food left at home. At the very least, take me to the nearest convenience store. I'll wait there for official rescue teams." When Ian shook his head firmly this time. "Go there on your own if you want. We have our own errands to run." He turned away and ignored the man entirely. A wild glint flashed across the man's eyes. If they wouldn't save him, none of them would make it out alive. He retreated into his room to grab a megaphone, and as he reached for it, a blackening scratch wound on his forearm was clearly visible. Wen Ian and Zhang Hao tossed another stone, planning to draw more zombies over to kill, when a shrill static buzz cut through the air from the balcony above. "Zzz." A booming voice echoed across the residential block right after. "Haha, aren't you two tough guys? I'll let you fight an endless horde." When Ian and Zhang Hao's faces paled, they spun to look up and saw the man gripping the megaphone, shouting taunts down at them nonstop from the balcony. He caught sight of the blackened wound on the man's arm and roared in anger. "You fool! You're turning, and you want to drag us down with you." He pulled out his Glock pistol, aimed at the man, and squeezed the trigger. Bang! The man crumpled to the ground, but the megaphone slipped from his grasp and looped his taunt on repeat. "I'll let you fight an endless horde." They turned to flee, only to see massive swarms of zombies pouring in from every road, path, and alley surrounding them. There were at least 100 of them. When Ian gritted his teeth and glanced at the 20 or so zombies still clustered around the SUV. Their only shot was to get in the vehicle and ram their way out. He shouted to Zhang Hao over the snarls. "How? We fight our way to the car." Adrenaline surged through Zhang Hao, and he roared back. "Let's kill them all." The two charged the group of 20 zombies, with Wen Ian taking the lead. He wore military combat armor, which offered far better protection against scratches than Zhang Hao's leather suit. They cut through the horde like wolves among sheep. Wen Ian's wide, sweeping blade strikes often took down 2 or 3 zombies at once. Zhang Hao hung back a little more cautiously, finishing off any zombies when Ian missed. A single blow from his staff usually knocked a zombie flat, and he followed up with extra strikes to make sure they stayed down. Dozens of zombies fell quickly. Dark, sticky blood splattered across both of their clothes. Several zombies managed to claw at Wen Ian during the fight, but none of their scratches pierced his combat uniform. They both gasped for breath, exhausted, yet the sight of the 100-strong horde rushing toward them sent chills down their spines. There was no time to rest. They sprinted to the SUV, hopped inside, and hit the gas hard, speeding back down the road they'd come from, running over several zombies blocking their path along the way. They drove to a quiet, safe spot and paused to catch their breath. The two reworked their route to search for Zhang Hao's sister, picking a less-traveled main road with far fewer people. When Ian checked his energy points again, current energy points, 76, he had no plans to hoard them. Rescuing Zhang Hao's sister meant clearing countless zombies inside a multi-story building, and the risk would skyrocket. He pulled the Glock from his waist and poured his remaining energy into upgrading all its functional modules. His eyes widened as the pistol in his hands blurred and shifted shape. When the transformation finished, the gun was fitted with new attachments, a silencer, a red dot sight, and a laser aiming module. He ejected the magazine and checked it. 14 9mm rounds remained inside. He glanced at Zhang Hao's leather suit, figuring his friend could use better defensive gear too. A mischievous grin tugged at his lips as he turned to Zhang Hao in the back seat. "Hao, take off your jacket for a second." Zhang Hao tensed up and crossed his arms over his chest defensively. "Cut that out, you creep." When Ian huffed, "Quit thinking weird thoughts. Hand over the suit, I'm upgrading it for you." Skeptical and awkward, Zhang Hao stripped off his leather jacket and pants and passed them over. When Ian sighed, there was a limitation to his system. He could only upgrade items he held or wore directly. Item: synthetic leather suit material upgrade cost. 10 energy points. Design upgrade cost. 10 energy points. Function upgrade cost. 10 energy points. Full modification cost. 50 energy points. Current remaining energy points. 56. He unlocked all 3 upgrade options at once. Subtle shifts rippled across the leather suit in his hands. Item: reinforced composite leather suit. Description: crafted from thick cowhide layered with carbon fiber, this suit balances breathability and comfort. Upon closer inspection, he found the composite materials listed in the description woven with specialized flexible fabrics that improved mobility. Lightweight, durable, comfortable, and easy to clean, it was perfectly suited for the end times. Zhang Hao rubbed his eyes, staring at the transformed suit as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. He slipped on the reinforced composite suit, instantly feeling a sense of comfort and reliable protection wrapping around him. When Ian clapped him on the shoulder with a laugh. "There we go. You're our frontline tank now." Zhang Hao thumped his chest confidently. "Count on me." They ate some hardtack and sipped bottled water before setting off again. Zhang Hao's sister worked in a remote office building, so they encountered very few zombies along the drive. When Ian ignored the security guard zombie, snarling trapped inside the booth, rammed through the lift gate, and pulled up to the office building entrance. They jumped out of the SUV and swiftly took down the few zombies that charged after them, then headed up the fire stairs toward the floor where Zhang Hao's sister's office was located. They barely ran into any zombies on the stairwell. Most of the undead lacked the dexterity to open fire doors, only snarling uselessly behind them when they heard movement. They reached the 8th floor, Zhang Jiayi's workplace, and pushed open the fire exit door, only for several zombies to lunge at them the second the door creaked open. They exchanged a quick look and struck in unison, dispatching the undead without much trouble. They stepped into the main office space, where dozens more zombies roared and rushed toward them. The undead lacked the sense to circle around desks, so most were blocked by the office furniture. Loose papers swirled through the air, leaving only a handful of zombies with a clear path to attack the two men. When Ian sliced through several zombies with his flame-wreathed blade, and the fire clinging to the metal ignited a few floating sheets of paper. Panic shot through him as he watched the burning scraps drift through the air, and he stamped them out quickly under his boots. A fire here would be a death sentence. They could burn alive before the zombies even got to them. He stared uneasily at his flaming blade, unsure whether to keep swinging it or sheath it. He did his best to avoid the floating paper while fighting, leaving most of the zombies for Zhang Hao, who twirled his golden staff with thunderous force. Once the last zombie fell, when Ian patted Zhang Hao's shoulder in praise. "Not bad. You've improved a ton." Zhang Hao grinned smugly. "Of course, you know who you're hanging with." When Ian rolled his eyes and flicked his forehead. "Hurry and look for your sister. She's waiting for you to get her out." Zhang Hao pulled out his phone to text her for her exact location, only to find there was no cell service at all. They combed every room on the floor before finding Zhang Jia locked inside a storage closet in the women's restroom. Inside the executive president's office, they had spotted two zombies lingering near each other by the desk. When Ian had muttered a thought about how privileged people lived differently in the old world, then beheaded both zombies with a single slash each. Zhang Hao supported his shaky sister as she stepped out of the cramped closet, and when Ian smiled and greeted her. "Hi, Sister Jiayi." Zhang Jia forced a weak smile back at him. "Ian, I can't thank you enough for this." When Ian waved it off, "Can you walk all right? We need to leave this building fast." Zhang Jiayi nodded. "I'm fine, let's go." Before they left, Zhang Hao rinsed all the blood off his staff. The three made it back to the SUV without further incident. When Ian didn't start the engine right away, he turned to the two people in the back seat. "I'm heading to the university to rescue my little sister next. Do you want to come with me?" Zhang Hao glanced at his sister, unsure how to answer. He wanted to stick by Wen Ian, but bringing his sister along would put her in grave danger. Leaving her alone somewhere was equally unsafe. Zhang Jia picked up on their hesitation and smiled gently. "I'll tag along with you too. I'm not strong enough to fight zombies, but I can drive and cook. I can handle all our supply and support work." Now that Jia had made her decision, the two men stopped second-guessing and began mapping out their next move. When Ian analyzed their plan aloud, "My sister's university is built on a mountain campus, home to thousands of students. We need to stock up fully before heading there. By the way, do either of you know a shop nearby that sells leather riding gear?" Zhang Hao scratched his head, deep in thought. Jia spoke up suddenly. "I know a motorcycle gear shop that's about to go out of business. They definitely carry leather suits there." When Ian lit up and plotted their route on his phone, the navigation voice chimed from the screen. "Offline navigation activated. Please note route information may be delayed." The three reached the shop without trouble. The area was isolated, and not a single zombie roamed the streets nearby. A padlock secured the glass front door of the motorcycle shop. Without a word, Zhang Hao raised his golden staff and smashed it down. Clank, the glass shattered instantly. They stepped inside and began gathering supplies. When Ian stared at the price tag marked $29.99 on one leather jacket, wondering who could have afforded such pricey gear before the disaster, he didn't hesitate to grab 5 full leather jacket and trouser sets, 5 full face riding helmets, motorcycle boots, backpacks, and more supplies. He took one leather suit set and unlocked all 3 upgrade tiers, then changed into the enhanced gear. The upgraded composite leather suit clung snugly to his frame, filling him with a powerful sense of safety. He picked up a full-face helmet and slipped it on, silently thinking the word upgrade. Item: standard full-face riding helmet material upgrade cost. 10 energy points. Design upgrade cost. 10 energy points. Function upgrade cost. 10 energy points. Full modification cost. 50 energy points. Current remaining energy points. 84. He poured all the required energy into maxing out every upgrade tier, and the helmet shifted and reshaped itself. The helmet shrank slightly in overall size. The clear visor transformed into a transparent holographic screen displaying real-time temperature, humidity, and other environmental data. He mentally pulled up the item stats. Item: multifunctional combat helmet description. This advanced combat helmet features adjustable tint, night vision, short-range communication, and multiple auxiliary tactical functions. Satisfied with the upgrade, he pressed a button on the side of the helmet, and the visor lifted smoothly upward. Jia Yi watched in curiosity. Is this some kind of superhuman ability? It's incredible. When Ian nodded with a smile, he knew he couldn't hide his secret forever. It was easier to pass his strange power off as a special ability than to explain a system. All right, let's get back in the car. He was about to climb into the SUV when a sharp sense of unease washed over him. Zhang Hao's warning shouted out beside him. Watch your back. He didn't waste time turning to look, throwing himself into a sideways roll that narrowly dodged a pounce from a mutated cat that had been hiding in the shadows. Once clear of the attack, he spun to face the creature. It was the size of a tiger, patterned with the brown markings of a tabby cat, more tiger-like feline than ordinary house cat. It arched its back, hissing, its eyes locked unblinkingly on Wen Ian. Wen Ian drew his flaming blade and roared, "Zhang Hao, protect your sister." His shout enraged the mutated cat. It abandoned its standoff and lunged straight for him again. Wen Ian raised his blade to meet the charge, and the creature flinched at the sudden burst of flame. In that split second of hesitation, the metal blade sliced deep into one of its front limbs. Meow. The mutated cat yowled in agony and retreated several paces. The wound made it far more cautious. It feinted a lunge toward Wen Ian, and he instinctively swung his blade to counter. The moment the blade left his guard, he realized he'd fallen for the trick, leaving a massive opening in his defense. The mutated cat seized the gap instantly, tackling him to the ground and lunging its jaws for his skull. The helmet blocked its bite, but the beast refused to back off, slashing wildly at his head with its razor-sharp front claws. Wen Ian refused to surrender, swinging his blade wildly while pinned to the pavement. From his compromised position, he couldn't muster enough force to land lethal blows, only shallow cuts on the mutated cat's hide. Zhang Liang snuck up behind the mutated cat without anyone noticing, raising the golden cudgel high and smashing it hard against the creature's skull. The mutated cat was dazed by the blow, stars swirling in its eyes as it wobbled its head non-stop. Zhang Liang raised the cudgel to land another strike, but the mutated cat snapped out of its stupor and slammed into him, sending him flying. Meow. It let out an enraged yowl, then stumbled unsteadily toward Zhang Liang. Wen Ian pushed himself upright and shook his head clear. He watched the mutated cat close in on Zhang Liang, claws raised to strike. He quickly pulled a Glock pistol from his waistband and fired several rounds straight at the beast. Bang, bang, bang. All the bullets buried themselves in the mutated cat's dense muscle tissue, failing to pierce through. The monster screeched in agony once more. Meow. It twisted its head and fixed a murderous glare on Wen Ian, who held the smoking gun. His heart tightened with dread. His mind raced, scrambling for a solution. The pistol couldn't deliver a killing blow, and his long sword only left shallow flesh wounds. The only way to finish it would be to slice its throat. But the mutated cat's lightning-fast reflexes made that nearly impossible. A sudden thought crossed his mind. His energy points were just enough to fully modify his longsword. He'd held off on the modification before due to its steep cost, saving points for more critical upgrades. Now he had no choice but to take the gamble. He whispered silently in his heart, "Modify longsword." The blade began to shift and reshape, yet he had no time to observe its transformation. The mutated cat had already lunged straight for him. Instead of retreating, he charged forward with a roar, lifting the reforged blade to meet the attack. The sword slid cleanly through the mutated cat's torso, and the two figures brushed past one another. Wen Ian dropped to one knee, propping himself up with the sword, gasping for ragged breaths. He glanced over at the mutated tabby cat, nearly split open down the middle. A massive gash stretched from its forehead all the way to the tip of its tail. The flesh along the cut was flayed wide open, seared black by intense heat. Just then, he noticed something odd. The sword in his grip was sinking downward. Looking down, he saw the blade had melted straight through the pavement, slowly sinking deeper into the ground. He yanked the sword free and pulled up its item stat panel. Item: Blazing Battleblade Flame Affinity Description. A fully modified longsword wreathed in searing perpetual flame. Consumes 1 energy point per hour once drawn from its sheath. His eyes lit up with excitement. This modified blade was unbelievably powerful. His system's modification function was easily its greatest feature. He slid the sword back into its sheath, then checked his remaining energy points. Current energy points, 50. A thought flickered through his mind. This single mutated cat had granted him 46 energy points. No wonder its combat prowess was so formidable. He turned to glance at Zhang Liang, who was clutching his chest and being helped to his feet by Zhang Jiai. You all right? Any serious injuries? Zhang Liang shook his head. I'm fine, just got knocked hard. It's only sore. Wen Yian walked over and supported Zhang Liang's other side, guiding him toward the vehicle. He retrieved a leather jacket from the trunk, upgraded it with his system, and handed it to Zhang Jiai. Head into that shop and change into this. Zhang Jiai nodded, grabbed the upgraded jacket, and stepped inside the store to change. While she was gone, Wen Yian pulled out his phone and noticed a red notification on WeChat. He'd activated Do Not Disturb earlier to avoid sudden ringtones drawing unwanted attention. He opened the app and saw dozens of unread messages from his younger sister. Unease coiled tight in his chest as he tapped open their chat window. Brother, a group of guys are clearing out every dorm room one by one outside. They're getting closer to my room. What do I do? Help. They're banging on my door. They're breaking in. No more messages followed. At the sight of those words, Wen Yian's eyes blazed red with rage. He slammed a fist hard against the car door. Bastards. If anything happens to my sister, I'll make every last one of them pay. Zhang Liang leaned over to glance at the phone screen, then fell silent and sank back into his seat. Moments later, Zhang Jiai returned to the car after changing clothes. Wen Yian started the engine, slammed on the gas, and the vehicle roared off at top speed. The car crashed into countless zombies along the way, its exterior dented and scraped all over, caked in thick, dark red bodily fluid. They finally pulled up at the gate of a university. The three each slung backpacks over their shoulders and climbed out of the vehicle. Wen Yian took point to clear zombies ahead. Zhang Jiai stayed in the middle, and Zhang Liang covered their rear. Before they even set foot on campus grounds, hordes of zombies swarmed toward them. Wen Yian turned to Zhang Liang and ordered sharply, "Keep Jiai safe. Leave these monsters to me." He drew his blazing battle blade and charged straight into the crowd, cutting down foes without mercy. Sometimes a single slash took 2 or 3 zombies at once. The dark blood pouring from their wounds instantly vaporized on contact with the sword's flames, their flesh charred to cinders in the process, every strike clean and decisive. He no longer feared ordinary zombies at all. They couldn't even scratch his armor. Dozens of the undead fell in mere minutes. Ignoring the pile of corpses strewn across the ground, he pressed forward uphill, the other 2 trailing close behind. He carved through every zombie that crossed his path, leaving carnage in his wake. Amid the slaughter, he failed to notice several agile shadows shifting within the surrounding buildings, slipping into the zombie horde and creeping steadily toward him. Wen Yian had just beheaded 2 zombies when a figure shot toward him at a speed far surpassing regular undead. Sharp, elongated claws lashed out straight for his skull. Screech. The razor-sharp talons scraped violently against his helmet, sending sparks flying everywhere, carving 4 deep gouges into the metal surface. Caught off guard, Wen Yian stumbled backward. He spun and swung his sword behind him before the mutated zombie could react, slicing clean through its neck. Alarm bells blared in his mind. This creature was vastly stronger than ordinary zombies, and it had lain in wait to ambush him, proof it possessed rudimentary intelligence. A surge of relief washed over him. The monster had targeted his head first. If it had gone for his leather jacket instead, its claws would have torn through his armor, with catastrophic consequences. He dared not let his guard down. Glancing at his composite leather jacket, he whispered, "Modify." The fabric of his jacket rippled and reshaped around him, while his sword never paused its work. He wove through the zombie mob, cutting them down like stalks of wheat. The modification finished, revealing a full-body scaled leather suit covered in overlapping diamond-shaped scales. The first thing Wen Yian noticed was how much lighter and better fitting it felt, reducing the strain of every movement. He took a split second to pull up its stat panel. Item: Biomimetic scale leather armor description. Forged from the hide of an unknown mutated beast. Description continued. Built with honeycomb shock-absorbing layers and a microfiber biomimetic exoskeleton mesh that enhances athletic performance. He barely had time to process the details before 3 more zombies lunged out from behind him, striking his torso in unison as if coordinating their attack. Luckily, his scale leather armor had finished modifying just moments prior. The 3 zombies' blows only left faint scratches across the scales. He rolled sideways to put distance between himself and the 3 creatures. He stared at the 3 undead, noting their taut, muscular frames, a stark contrast to the flabby, limp flesh of regular zombies. He dubbed this new threat Tier 1 zombies. Foiled by their failed assault, the 3 Tier 1 zombies melted back into the surrounding horde. He breathed a quiet sigh of relief. Most of the ordinary zombies had already been cut down, leaving only 20 or so stragglers. These Tier 1 zombies lacked complex rational thought. If they'd possessed sharper minds, the 3 of them would have been overwhelmed long ago. He spotted Zhang Liang and Zhang Jia slipping into a nearby teaching building while the zombies were distracted, and tension eased slightly from his shoulders. He prepared to finish off the remaining undead in one sweep, when his peripheral vision caught 2 more lithe, powerfully built figures weaving through the mob. He frowned. 2 more Tier 1 zombies, bringing the total count to 5. Wave after wave of ordinary zombies continued to surge toward him, and even with his top-tier gear, the pressure weighed heavily on his shoulders. He abandoned his plan to eliminate every last monster and resolved to break through into the nearby teaching building for shelter. At that moment, one of the Tier 1 zombies pounced at his back. Instead of dodging, when Ian twisted and swung his sword backward, the creature's arm was severed clean off, flying through the air and landing amid the zombie horde, where several undead immediately descended to tear it apart. The Tier 1 zombie showed no sign of pain, only a flicker of wariness in its eyes as it scrambled backward, seizing the opening when Ian sprinted toward the teaching building. The 5 Tier 1 zombies sensed his escape attempt, yet they hesitated to block his path head-on, intimidated by his flaming blade, only launching sporadic hit-and-run strikes. During his breakout, he took multiple glancing blows, leaving dozens of scratches across his scaled armor. Though none of the attacks pierced his defenses, each impact sent a jolt of force through his body, forcing him to grit his teeth and push through the pain. When Ian endured the constant harassment from the 5 Tier 1 zombies and finally reached the stairwell entrance of the teaching building, stacked desks and chairs blocked the stairwell, though a narrow passage had been cleared through the pile. He ducked through the gap, only to find over a dozen young men lined up along the corridor. As he squeezed past the furniture barricade, a boy with black-rimmed glasses raised his palm, conjuring a ball of fire out of thin air. He hurled the flame at the stacked desks and chairs. The wooden furniture ignited instantly, a wall of roaring flames blocking the pursuing zombies outside. After extinguishing the threat, the boy grinned and spoke in an easy, familiar tone. "Nice work out there, taking on 5 mutated zombies all by yourself." When Ian slid his blazing battle blade back into its sheath and smiled faintly. "Thanks for the compliment. Are you an ability user?" A group of over a dozen young women walked down the corridor, and the girl leading them answered on his behalf. "I'm Lu Xiyu, a wind ability user. This is Zhang Zixuan, a fire ability user. What's your power?" When Ian tapped the blade at his hip and fabricated a casual lie. "I'm Wen Ian. My ability is weapon enchantment." Zhang Zixuan pushed his glasses up the bridge of his nose. "You're not a student here, are you? What brings you to our campus?" When Ian explained, "My younger sister is trapped in the girls' dormitory, and I've come to rescue her. As you can see from the chaos outside, are there only 2 ability users among your group?" Lu Xiyu nodded. "We tried to break out earlier, but those mutated zombies ambushed us mid-escape. We lost most of our people and had no choice but to retreat back here." Learning they were trapped as well, when Ian proposed an alliance. "Since we're all stuck here, we could team up to fight our way out together." The 2 ability users exchanged a glance and agreed. The 3 sat down to hash out a battle plan. Zhang Zixuan spoke first. "We're not suited for close-quarters combat. How about you draw all the zombies' attention at the front, and we provide ranged elemental support from the rear?" When Ian frowned, the plan held logic. He was indeed the best suited to lead the frontline charge, but the arrangement sat uncomfortably with him. Why should he bear all the risk while the 2 ability users stayed safely out of harm's way? After a moment of consideration, he relented. Even if he forced the pair to join him on the front lines, their lack of close combat skill would only create openings for the zombies to strike. Worse still, his sister's life hung in the balance. leaving no time to argue over the division of labor. I'll agree to this plan, he said. But first let our group rest undisturbed for a while. Don't interrupt us during that time. Zhang Zixuan nodded in agreement, and Lu Xiyu raised no objections either. Zhang Liang, Zhang Jiai, and Wen Ian ducked into an empty classroom and drew the curtains shut. Wen Ian turned to Zhang Liang. What do you make of them? Zhang Liang thought it over briefly before replying. They seem decent enough. They even moved the stacked chairs to clear a path for us when we reached the stairs. Wen Ian nodded, dropping the subject. He checked his remaining energy points. Current energy points, 293, his eyes widened in surprise. He'd accumulated far more points than he'd realized without noticing. He pulled 2 full-face helmets from Zhang Jiai's backpack, upgraded them with his system, and handed one to each of his companions. They slipped the helmets on and familiarized themselves with their functions. When Ian pressed a button on the side of his helmet to activate the built-in communication system. Zhang Liang, Zhang Jiai, respond if you copy. A moment later, their voices crackled through his helmet speakers. Copy that. When Ian nodded with satisfaction. Good. Use the helmet comms if any emergencies arise. Zhang Liang, hand over your weapon to me. Zhang Liang did not hesitate, passing his staff over without question. When Ian gripped the weapon and whispered, modify. Item, premium retractable iron staff energy points required for modification. 50 current energy points. 193. The staff in his hands shifted and reshaped. The simple retractable rod transformed fully into a replica of the golden cudgel, its black shaft etched with star and water patterns, thick golden bands capping both ends. He whispered view stats to pull up its description panel. Item, energy battle staff description. Every strike unleashes a high energy pulse from both ends. Requires a fingerprint scan on the central core for initial binding, after which it links automatically to the wielder's neural signals. Length adjustment and pulse activation are controlled by thought. Consumes 1 energy point every 100 hits. Staring at the battle staff stats, when Ian suddenly found his blazing battle blade far less impressive. He reluctantly handed the energy battle staff to Zhang Liang and walked him through every detail of its operation. Zhang Liang's eyes lit up brighter with each explanation, running his palms over the staff's surface, utterly enamored with the weapon. Leaving the ecstatic Zhang Liang to admire his new gear, when Ian pulled out his well-used Glock pistol and muttered, modify. Item, fully customized Glock pistol energy points required for modification. 100 current energy points. 143, a sleek, futuristic handgun materialized in his grasp. Its body was polished silver, with a circular air chamber mounted above the grip, retaining the holographic sight and laser pointer from its original form. He opened its stat panel to read the details. Item, plasma pulse pistol high-temperature pulse description. A fully customized plasma sidearm with a maximum effective range of 50 meters. Consumes 1 energy point after 30 shots fired. When Ian stroked the futuristic firearm, a surge of security washing over him. He holstered the pistol, then a sudden idea struck him. What would happen if he modified medical supplies? He pulled a box of ibuprofen capsules from his backpack and opened the upgrade menu. Item, ibuprofen pain relief capsules energy for packaging upgrade. 2 points energy for potency upgrade. 2 points energy for function upgrade. 2 points total energy for full modification. 10 points current energy points. 43. He skipped the cosmetic packaging upgrade and selected potency and function enhancements instead. He pulled up the updated item description. Item, high potency pain relief capsules description. Powerful painkillers that rapidly soothe discomfort, while also reducing inflammation and temporarily boosting immune function. Unimpressed with the modest effects, he selected full modification once more. Item, combat capsules pain immunity description. Grants 1 full hour of complete immunity to pain and exhaustion, alongside minor continuous wound regeneration. He stared at the combat capsules with satisfaction, perfectly suited to their current desperate situation. If modified medicine yielded such powerful effects, what would become of modified food? He pulled out a chocolate energy bar and opened the upgrade panel again. Item, nut chocolate bar energy for packaging upgrade. 2 points energy for potency upgrade. 2 points energy for function upgrade. 2 points total energy for full modification. 10 points current energy points. 29 once again. He ignored the packaging upgrade and chose potency and function enhancements. Item, high energy nutrition bar. Description, a single bar satisfies all daily nutritional needs for 12 hours, with mild stimulant effects to sharpen alertness. He raised an eyebrow. Useful yet lacking in standout power. He activated full modification a final time. Item, Super Energy Bar Reaction Boost. Description: 1 bar supplies full nutritional sustenance for an entire day, raises cognitive reaction speed by 50%, and maintains peak mental clarity for 1 hour straight. His eyes widened in shock. The Super Energy Bar paired with combat capsules formed an unstoppable combat combination. He bit into the energy bar stuffed in his mouth, and in an instant, his taste buds were conquered by an unparalleled, delicious flavor he had never experienced before. He polished off the rest of the energy bar in a few quick bites, still craving more. He called over the 2 others who were still tinkering with their helmets and stepped out of the classroom. The students had split into 2 groups. One team of boys was led by Zhang Zixuan, and the other all-girl team was headed by Lu Xiyu. They stood guard at the 2 separate stairwells. When they spotted Wen Ian and his 2 companions emerging from the classroom, they all swarmed over. A warm surge suddenly flooded Wen Ian's mind, clearing his thoughts instantly. It seemed as if everyone around him was moving in slow motion. The energy bar's effects had fully kicked in. Zhang Zixuan spoke first. "Buddy, did you get enough rest? Are we moving out now?" Wen Ian nodded. "I've rested long enough. Let's head out." Lu Xiyu smiled at that. "Don't worry. If the 3 of us team up, we'll wipe out all these zombies for good." Wen Ian nodded again without another word and walked alone down the stairs. Zhang Hao moved to follow him, but Wen Ian held him back, shooting him a pointed look to tell him to keep Zhang Jia safe. Zhang Hao halted and gave a slight nod. Wen Ian lowered his helmet visor, drew his battle blade, and hacked apart the tangled desks and chairs blocking his path. He strode outside onto the open campus ground. The zombies caught the scent of living humans and lurched toward him. The First-Order zombies hiding in shadowy corners also stirred restlessly. One First-Order zombie lost its patience and lunged straight for Wen Ian. Before it could close in, a ball of fire from a distance swallowed it whole. The death of that First-Order zombie did not scare the others off. Instead, more stepped out of the shadows and charged at Wen Ian. Wen Ian sliced through an ordinary zombie's head with one swing of his blade and scanned his surroundings. He realized the original 5 First-Order zombies had multiplied. 7 of them were now closing in on him. A wind blade sliced through the air, lopping the head off another First-Order zombie with pinpoint accuracy. 3 First-Order zombies rushed him all at once, and a faint smirk tugged at Wen Ian's lips. In his enhanced vision, their movements dragged like slow-motion footage, riddled with openings and flaws. He rolled sideways to dodge their simultaneous attack. Twisting around, he decapitated one of them, just as the other 3 closed the gap. His nerves stretched taut to their limit, and he weaved between them, relying on his vastly superior reaction speed to stay out of harm's way. A second wave of elemental attacks arrived moments later. A raging fireball consumed another First-Order zombie, incinerating several regular zombies beside it in the blaze. The wind blade followed right after, cleaving the skull of yet another First-Order zombie before slicing dozens of ordinary zombies in half as its force faded away. When Ian's pressure eased drastically, he seized the opening and cut down another First-Order zombie. With only 3 left standing, his shoulders relaxed slightly. A few more exchanges passed, and he beheaded another First-Order zombie. He was about to finish off the remaining 2 when a sudden jolt of unease twisted in his chest. Lu Xiyu's panicked shout echoed from behind him. "Zhang Zixuan, what are you doing?" When Ian spun around to see a growing fireball expanding in his field of vision, his pupils constricted sharply as the shadow of death loomed over him. At the last split second, a gust of wind veered the fireball slightly off course. When Ian threw himself to the side, but even his lightning-fast reflexes could not fully compensate for his body's lag. The fireball grazed his body and detonated beside him. The searing blast wave sent him flying several meters through the air. When Ian felt as though his internal organs had shifted out of place. A burning, prickling pain spread across every inch of his skin, and blood welled up in his throat, which he forced back down. Gritting his teeth, he scrambled shakily to his feet, burning with unbridled rage. His gaze cut through the horde of zombies and locked onto Zhang Zixuan, who wore a cold grin. He pulled out a combat capsule, lifted his visor, and swallowed it. The agony vanished at once. Warm currents coursed through his body, rapidly mending his injuries. Zhang Hao's voice crackled through his helmet comms. "NG, are you alright? That bastard Zhang Zixuan has us surrounded." His fury boiling over, when Ian ground out a reply. "Keep your sister safe. I'm on my way." The last 2 First-Order zombies charged at him mindlessly once more. He lowered his visor again, gripped his battle blade tight, and pushed off the ground with all his strength, cutting down the nearest First-Order zombie in one stroke. The final First-Order zombie pounced straight at him. He sidestepped its lunge and drove his blade through its skull from behind. He sprinted back toward the teaching building, and another fireball materialized in Zhang Zishuan's hands, hurtling toward him. This time when Ian was prepared. A quick side shift let him evade the fire spell entirely. Seeing his fireballs had no effect, Zhang Zishuan held off on attacking him further. When Ian was already close to the building, and he reached the second-floor stairwell in mere heartbeats, he took in the scene before him. Zhang Zishuan's group of boys held several girls at knife point with fruit blades, leaving Lu Xiyu's team frozen, afraid to make a single reckless move. Zhang Zishuan held a swirling fireball aimed directly at Zhang Hao. Zhang Hao stood rigid, combat gauntlet raised, shielding his sister behind him as he stared down Zhang Zishuan. Zhang Zishuan pushed his glasses up his nose and smiled at Wen Ian. "Brotherin, you wouldn't want something bad to happen to your friend, would you?" Wen Ian ached to draw his plasma pulse pistol and put a bullet through his skull, but several hostages stood between them, blocking any clear shot. He forced his rage under control and spoke. "What do you want?" A triumphant smirk curved Zhang Zishuan's lips. "Toss your blade over here, or your friend will." He never finished his sentence. Zhang Hao suddenly burst forward, swinging his combat gauntlet hard at Zhang Zishuan's torso. "Enough of your garbage." Zhang Zishuan's full attention had been fixed on Wen Ian, leaving him completely unprepared for the sudden assault. The glowing tip of the combat gauntlet slammed into his chest, unleashing a powerful burst of concussive energy. His chest caved inward instantly. He slammed into the wall and crumpled to the floor, motionless. The fireball hovering in midair dissipated without a trace. Dead silence fell over everyone. No one had anticipated the sudden turn of events. Wen Ian did not stand frozen like the rest. While all eyes were drawn to the commotion, he pushed off the ground, battle blade raised, and charged into the crowd like a tiger unleashed among sheep. Blood sprayed and bodies crumpled wherever he passed. Chaos erupted in an instant, screams ringing out non-stop. The boys who had sided with Zhang Zishuan scattered in panic, fleeing toward Lu Xiyu's group. Lu Xiyu could not bear to watch any longer and shouted, "Zhang Zishuan is already dead. Stop killing them." Wen Ian paid her no heed. A cold mantra repeated in his head. "Mercy toward enemies is cruelty to yourself." When Wen Ian ignored her warning, a wind blade materialized in Lu Xiyu's hand, and she roared, "I told you to stop." Wen Ian eyed the wind blade warily. He doubted his current armor could withstand its cutting power. Still, he did not flinch. He drew his pulse pistol from his waist and opened fire in steady bursts. His cold, emotionless voice filtered through his helmet visor. "We'll see whether your wind blade strikes faster than my gun." Buzz, buzz, buzz. Crimson plasma beams erupted from the pistol. They tore through the fleeing boys, melting gaping holes wherever they hit. Even those not killed instantly collapsed to the ground, screaming in agony before succumbing to their wounds moments later. Lu Xiyu's hands trembled violently. After an internal struggle, she dispersed the wind blade hovering above her palm. All dozen boys lay dead before they could reach Lu Xiyu's side. Staring at the litter of bodies on the floor, Lu Xiyu demanded angrily, "Why did you kill all of them? Zhang Zishuan is already gone." Wen Ian let out a cold laugh. They willingly followed his plan. None of them warned your group, which means every single one was complicit. They all deserved what they got. Lu Xiyu clamped her jaw shut and said nothing more, leading her team away. Zhang Jiai, who had been hiding behind Zhang Hao, doubled over against the wall and retched violently. She had seen countless zombie corpses back at the facility, but never such a pile of dead human bodies. When Ian stared down at the pistol in his grip, his heart heavy with conflicting emotions. This weapon had never slain a single zombie. Every shot had been used against other people. He left Zhang Jiai to recover and checked his remaining energy points. Current energy points, 213. He fell deep in thought as he watched the rapidly climbing number. He guessed each first-order zombie granted somewhere between 10 and 20 energy points. There was no other way his stockpile could have grown so quickly. He resolved to perform a magical refit on his helmet to boost his combat power as much as possible. Item: multifunction combat helmet energy required for magical refit. 50 points. He confirmed the refit selection, and the helmet began to shift and reshape around his head. Item: ecosystem combat helmet intelligent ecosystem description. A combat helmet equipped with a fully integrated self-sustaining ecosystem. It insulates the wearer from all harsh external environmental conditions. It houses an intelligent combat operating system controllable entirely via brainwave signals. The helmet felt far more comfortable against his skin, and far more functional panels appeared across his heads-up display. He did not favor only his own gear. He used energy points to refit Zhang Hao's leather armor and helmet as well. Energy points could always be earned again. Only rapid strength growth would let them survive the brutal end of the world. He glanced at Zhang Jiai, who looked weak from vomiting, and pulled a bottle of mineral water from his backpack. He mentally pulled up the upgrade panel. Item: Mineral water energy to upgrade packaging. 1 point energy to upgrade effects. 1 point energy to upgrade functional properties. 1 point energy for full magical refit. 5 points current energy points. 63. He selected all 3 upgrade options, curious to see what the enhanced packaging would look like. Item: Oxygen-rich electrolyte water description. Oxygen-infused electrolyte water replenishing all essential trace minerals. Remains fresh and usable for 10 years without spoiling. The ordinary plastic bottle in his hand transformed into a container crafted from nano-antibacterial material. Thinking the electrolyte water's effects were somewhat underwhelming, he initiated another full refit. Item: Spring of Vitality diluted description. A diluted distillation of the Spring of Vitality. Restores physical stamina rapidly upon consumption. Satisfied after reading the description, he tilted the bottle back and chugged it down in large gulps. A warm current flooded his limbs and torso, washing away the heavy fatigue weighing on his body and restoring his stamina at a rapid pace. He refitted 2 more unupgraded bottles of mineral water into Spring of Vitality and handed them to his companions. He explained, "Drink this, it'll get your energy back fast." They took the bottles. Zhang Jiai's face, pale and drained from retching, regained a healthy flush after a few sips. Once Zhang Jiai looked steady again, when Ian spoke up, "Let's go." They nodded. Zhang Hao grinned. "And gee, I feel like I could charge into battle right alongside you now. I used to envy your long blade, but my combat gauntlet's pretty awesome too." When Ian smiled and praised him, "No joke, your blow against Zhang Zishuan turned the whole tide. Without that crucial strike, we'd still be trapped under his control." Zhang Hao scratched his neck modestly. "It's only possible because you gave me such great gear, and gee." They chatted a little longer before swarms of zombies appeared ahead on the upward stairwell, snapping their jaws and lurching toward them. When Ian led the way, his battle blade sweeping wide, hardly any zombie could withstand a single strike. Zhang Hao covered their rear. A single graze from his combat gauntlet left crippling wounds, and direct contact meant instant death. In the middle of their formation, Zhang Jiai held the pulse pistol when Ian had given her, scanning the horde constantly for first-order zombies. The pistol's greatest strengths were its complete lack of recoil, firing speed far exceeding conventional firearms, and near immunity to environmental interference. Any target within 50 meters hit by its laser sight was guaranteed to perish. After eliminating several first-order zombies, they reached the girls' dormitory safely. The stairwell entrance was blocked by piles of clutter. When Ian's blade cut through the mess in minutes, clearing a path forward, he sprinted upstairs, knowing exactly where his sister's dorm room was. He had helped her carry luggage and set up her bunk when she first enrolled. He reached room 307 on the 3rd floor, only to find the door lock violently broken. The room lay in complete disarray, as if ransacked thoroughly. When Ian tightened his grip on his battle blade, his mind flooding with nightmarish visions of his sister coming to harm. Zhang Hao and Zhang Jiai caught up behind him, both sharing his sinking premonition. Zhang Jiai tried to comfort him. "Don't jump to conclusions. Your sister's quick-witted. She must be all right." When Ian nodded and said in a low, heavy voice, "You two search the lower floors. I'll check upstairs. Message me through the helmet comms immediately if you find anything." Without waiting for their reply, he raced toward the upper levels. He searched dorm room after dorm room all the way up to the 6th floor. Faint voices drifted down from the floor above, and he hurried to the 7th floor, slowing his pace as he crept toward the room the noise came from. Drawing close, he caught the conversation inside. "You beasts. My brother will hunt every last one of you down. Haha, your brother's probably dead out there somewhere. Right? Even if he's still breathing, seeing you like this would make him disown you. Huh? You can put up all the resistance you want. We're not leaving empty-handed. Hold her down, guys." Fury blazed through when Ian, upon hearing his sister's voice mixed with the mocking jeers of other men. He raised his battle blade, ready to split the door open and slaughter every person inside. A shrill, cracking scream from his sister cut through the air before he could strike. Ahawk! The door exploded outward, and a figure went flying through the hallway before plummeting from the 7th floor to the ground below. A dull crash echoed up, followed by silence. The person was dead on impact. A shocked male voice came from inside the room. "Why, you have some kind of power." The words barely left his mouth before more figures were hurled out the door, each hitting the ground with a heavy thud. When Ian snapped out of his shock and rushed to the doorway to peer inside, his sister hovered suspended midair, bloodshot eyes wide. her clothes rumpled and hair swirling wildly around her. Furniture and debris floated weightlessly all around her, lifted by an invisible force. When she spotted Ian at the door, she assumed he was another one of their attackers. When Ian suddenly felt his own body lift off the ground, pulled by her mental power. Terrified of sharing the fate of the men thrown out, he rushed to explain. "Little sister, it's me, your brother. Don't blast me out the window." His sister froze, recognizing the familiar tone of his voice. The force holding Ian aloft vanished instantly. He ripped off his helmet to reveal his face. Tears spilled uncontrollably down her cheeks the moment she saw him. She threw herself into his arms and sobbed, releasing all the fear and suffering she had endured. "Brother, I thought I'd never see you again, Will." When Ian gently stroked her back, speaking softly to soothe her. "It's okay now. I'm here, you're safe." When Ishu cried for a long while before her emotions steadied, she pulled back from his embrace, wiping her tear-streaked cheeks, and stared curiously at the leather armor covering his body. "Brother, where did you get this outfit? It looks so cool." When Ian smiled, "I forged it with my ability. I'll make a matching set for you later." When Ishu nodded obediently, remembering her display of power, he asked, "By the way, what ability did you awaken?" When Ishu tilted her head and thought for a moment before answering. "I think it's telekinesis. My mind can lift and move objects through the air." When Ian's eyes lit up, telekinesis was an incredibly powerful ability in every novel and film he had ever seen. He told her to try lifting the metal bunk bed beside them to gauge the strength of her mental power. When Ishu closed her eyes and focused all her energy, fine beads of sweat dotted her forehead as the heavy metal bunk bed wobbled off the ground and hovered unsteadily in midair. When Ian gasped, with telekinesis of this caliber paired with his magically refitted gear, they would be nearly unbeatable in the early stages of the apocalypse. Zhang Hao and Zhang Jiai wandered up the stairs after hearing the commotion. They arrived just in time to see the floating metal bed. Zhang Hao gaped, pointing at it in shock. "And gee, that bed's floating. Did you build some new fancy weapon?" When Ian laughed and clarified, "That's my little sister's ability. From now on, she can lift all of us off the ground if we need to escape fast." Zhang Hao gave her an admiring thumbs up. "Your power's insane, little sister." When Ishu looked slightly flustered and greeted Zhang Jiai. "Hello, Sister Jiai." Zhang Jiai smiled warmly back at her. "You're amazing, kid." When Ian cleared his throat and assigned tasks. "Zhang Hao, leave your backpack here. Go search the other dorm rooms for blades like fruit knives. I'll forge a set of weapons for my sister." Zhang Hao nodded and headed off to search the neighboring rooms. When Ian pulled the spare helmet and leather armor he had set aside for his sister from his backpack, he refitted the leather into scaled armor identical to his own and upgraded the helmet into a full multifunction combat model. After finishing the upgrades, he checked his energy reserves once more. Current energy points, 66. He handed the helmet and scaled leather armor to his sister, telling her to put them on and try them out. When Ian leaned against the wall, lost in thought, his current gear had nearly hit its maximum potential. To forge more powerful modified equipment, he needed far superior base weapons. His pulse pistol had been upgraded from a plastic toy handgun. If he swapped it out for a real firearm, how devastating would its firepower be? The leather jacket he wore was also maxed out. What could replace it? A bulletproof vest, perhaps? He pondered for a moment. Then a sudden idea struck him. If toy guns could be transformed into real firearms through modification, could he work the same magic on movie prop models? The thought took root and swelled in his mind. He suddenly recalled a full-size humanoid mecha model standing outside the cinema in a nearby shopping mall, one built entirely from metal, as he remembered. A faint smile tugged at his lips. His next destination was Huanghe Department Store downtown. Just then, his sister stepped out. Her tight leather suit accentuated her graceful figure, and the futuristic tech helmet covering her head erased all traces of youthful childishness, lending her a mature, valiant aura instead. When Ian chuckled and teased her, "My little sister has really grown up." When Ishu lifted off the helmet and smiled softly. At that moment, Zhang Hao walked in clutching several fruit knives and a bag of snacks. He set everything down on the table with a grin. "I brought fruit knives, and I also managed to scavenge some snacks." Seeing Zhang Hao return, when Ian laid out his plan. "We'll stay here for the night, then head to Huanghe Department Store first thing tomorrow morning. We can stock up on supplies and gather intelligence along the way. If we can't find a better place afterward, we'll move to the Villa District. Fewer people linger there, so it should be safer." The others all nodded in agreement. Zhang Jiai suddenly spoke up. "Do you think the Federal Army will send troops to rescue us?" Zhang Hao was optimistic. "They definitely will. These zombies can't stand a chance against the military. When Ian thought for a second before answering, rescue teams will likely come, but they'll prioritize core personnel like researchers first. Ordinary survivors will probably have to wait 2 or 3 days, since mobilizing heavy weaponry takes time. A frown creased his brow as another thought crossed his mind. I believe these zombies will evolve at an alarming rate. There were no Tier 1 zombies when the apocalypse broke out, yet by afternoon, dozens had already appeared. I expect their numbers will surge even more tomorrow. A heavy sense of danger settled over the group. His sister asked anxiously, "Can the military contain this disaster?" When Ian shook his head, "It's unlikely. Firearms will lose their edge over time, and supernatural ability wielders will become the main line of defense." He shifted gears abruptly. "Little sister, your girls' dorm couldn't have only had you trapped back then. Why were you alone?" Wanishu let out a bitter laugh and explained. "Before the male students arrived, all the girls in the dorm banded together and cleared every zombie inside the building. After that, most of them left as a group to search for food in the cafeteria. I pretended no one was in my room and stayed behind." When Ian fell silent, it had been his message telling her to wait for him in the dorm. He steered the conversation elsewhere. "Let's rest for a while. Before dusk falls, we'll head to the cafeteria to grab more food, and I'll help you get more familiar with your ability." No one objected. They pulled out water and rations to eat, while when Ian picked up one of the fruit knives Zhang Hao had brought back, he mentally summoned his upgrade panel. Item: fruit knife, energy required for material upgrade. 3 points. Energy required for sharpness upgrade. 3 points. Energy required for functional upgrade. 3 points. Energy required for custom modification. 15 points. Current energy points 66. He selected each upgrade one after another. First, the material upgrade. The knife grew heavier, its plastic handle morphing into solid metal, and the blade thickened considerably. Next, the sharpness upgrade. The edge became razor sharp. He dragged it lightly across the corner of the table, slicing through the wood as easily as tofu. He suspected the sharpness upgrade did more than just hone the blade. It seemed to permanently maintain its cutting edge. He activated the final functional upgrade. A dark coating spread across the entire knife, absorbing nearly all light. He waved it through the air. Not a single whoosh of wind could be heard. He checked the updated item panel. Item: Shadow Dagger. Description: a dagger designed for supreme stealth. Finally, he initiated the custom modification. The knife gained even more weight. A hidden button jutted from the end of the handle. When he pressed it, the blade began vibrating at an extremely high frequency. He walked over to a metal wardrobe and made a light slash. The blade cut through the steel door as if it were paper. He gasped at its power. Even his scaled leather armor would not block a strike from this weapon. He checked the modification details. Item: high-frequency vibrating shadow dagger. Description: a shadow dagger equipped with high-frequency vibration function. He crafted 2 more standard shadow daggers without the vibration modification, then handed all 3 to his sister, explaining their unique properties in brief. He then modified a super energy bar and passed it to her with a smile. "Eat this in a crisis. It can boost your reaction speed by 50% and might save your life." Wanishu nodded and tucked it into her pocket. When Ian glanced at the time, for in the afternoon, dusk would arrive in just over an hour. He stood up. "Let's go clear out the zombies outside." Each of them slung their backpacks on and exited the dormitory. When they reached the ground floor, they spotted several zombies wandering the open courtyard. Wanishu focused her mind, and 2 shadow daggers flew out of her backpack. In a matter of seconds, the creatures lay dead. With her leading the way toward the cafeteria, nearly all zombies were pierced through the skull by her floating daggers before they could draw near. Tier 1 zombies lurking in the shadows recognized they were outmatched and stayed hidden. They reached the cafeteria without incident, only to find the main doors tightly shut. Someone was clearly inside. When Ian knocked on the door and called out, "Anyone there? We're survivors. We've cleared all the zombies outside. Can you open up?" Muffled whispers came from within. After a short debate, the door creaked open, revealing dozens of survivors, men and women mixed together. A young man in a hoodie and jeans stood at the front, eyeing them warily. Beside him stood a girl wearing a sports tank top and loose jogger pants, with a pair of cat ears perched on her head. She blurted out, "What's with those weird outfits? Are you all cosplaying some characters?" Embarrassed, when Ian lifted his face mask and smiled. "We just came to gather supplies and exchange information with everyone." The 2 leaders exchanged a glance and stepped aside to let them enter. From their perspective, the 4 newcomers were far too formidable to provoke. One wielded a long broadsword, another carried a strange pistol at his waist, and the third gripped an odd staff. The young man in the hoodie spoke. "We'll let you in, but you can only take 1 day's worth of food. There are dozens of us to feed. And no troublemaking. As he spoke, he drew in massive volumes of air, compressing and condensing it into a swirling mass bursting with explosive power. When Ishu's expression turned tense, 3 shadow daggers hovered silently in the air around her, while when Ian tightened his grip on his sword's hilt, the air crackled with tension until the young man hurled his condensed air blast at a stray zombie wandering behind when Ian's group. The monster's head exploded instantly, showering the ground with gore and flesh. The cat-eared girl patted his shoulder casually. Chun-Lei, stop intimidating them. Even if we fought, we might not beat them anyway. Chun-Lei rolled his eyes. Fine, you deal with them then. I'm out. With that, he turned and walked away. The cat-eared girl pouted and muttered, Humph, I'll handle it myself then. She smiled and gestured for them to step fully inside, and the other survivors closed the door behind them. She introduced herself warmly. I'm Lin Shinran. I was napping in my dorm right before the apocalypse hit, and woke up to this chaos. Don't let Chun-Lei's gruff act fool you. He's actually a decent person deep down. Lin Shinran led them to the small convenience store counter inside the cafeteria, chattering nonstop the entire way, leaving the 4 visitors little chance to speak. You can grab some food, but don't take too much. We don't have enough stock for all of us for long. When Ian nodded, their own supplies were more than sufficient. Zhang Hao's backpack alone held rations that could last 2 full days. Each picked out a small amount of their favorite snacks and stowed them in their packs, taking no more than they needed. When Ian asked Lin Shinran, What's your group's plan? Are you waiting for government rescue? Lin Shinran shook her head. If no rescue arrives tomorrow, we'll probably abandon this place. There's plenty of food here, but the stock from the convenience store will only feed our group for 3 or 4 days at most. When Ian agreed, the cafeteria relied on daily fresh deliveries, so their main food reserve was the packaged goods in the small shop. Lin Shinran stared curiously at their gear. Where did you get all this equipment? It looks incredibly powerful. When Ian smiled, I crafted all of it with my supernatural ability. It's enough to block zombie attacks for the most part. Lin Shinran looked at him with undisguised admiration. No wonder it looks so impressive. You made it all yourself, brother. Your ability is amazing. By the way, do you have a partner? When Ian flushed slightly at the praise and shook his head. When Ishu frowned and muttered quietly beside him. She's just laying it on thick to get something from him. Lin Shinran pretended not to hear the comment, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Wen Ian. Brother, would you consider letting me tag along with your group? I'm very reliable. I can cook, clean, and adapt to any situation easily. Watching the cat-eared girl's lively, playful demeanor, when Ian briefly thought she was rather endearing. Wait, what am I thinking? He gently stepped back from her leaning form and spoke firmly. Don't joke around. I'm not looking for companionship right now. Lin Shinran stared at him with a dejected look. Then could you forge a weapon for me to keep as a memento? Something I can think of you by whenever I'm in danger. When Ian caught on to her true motive halfway through her sentence and cut her off. Hold on, I see what you're after. All right, I'll make you one. He pulled a fruit knife from the convenience store, turned his back to her, and upgraded it into a shadow dagger. He turned back and handed it over. But you have to tell me what your ability is in exchange. She agreed without hesitation, having no reason to hide her power. I can transform into a cat. Once shifted, my strength and speed both greatly increase. As she spoke, her pupils narrowed into vertical slits, her fingernails sharpened and lengthened, and 2 small fangs peeked out from her mouth, giving her an adorably fierce look. When Ian couldn't help but ruffle her hair and chuckled. You're really cute. What was that you said earlier about joining our group? Her cheeks flushed pink, and she said nothing. He stopped teasing her and handed her the shadow dagger. This is a shadow dagger. It outperforms every regular cold weapon we've seen so far. She took the dagger curiously and dragged it across a nearby shelf, slicing a clean gash through the wood with ease. Her eyes widened in shock, and she exclaimed happily, Thank you so much, brother. When Ian slung his backpack over his shoulder and turned to leave. We need to head out now. Show us to the door. She nodded and led them toward the exit, sparking hushed murmurs among the other survivors. Several young men urged Chun-Lei to demand goods in exchange for letting them leave, but Chun-Lei ignored them. They were merely bitter about the group taking some food, yet none were foolish enough to act as their pawns. Once they stepped outside, Zhang Hao nudged Wen Ian and whispered in his ear, Hey, that cat-eared girl back there, you didn't feel any attraction? If you're not interested, I might try striking up a conversation with her. When Ian rolled his eyes. Quit daydreaming. One hit from her could crack your skull open. Zhang Hao clicked his tongue and muttered quietly. Chicken. A great girl like her won't wait around forever. Rapid gunfire suddenly echoed through the air, jolting everyone. They all turned toward the sound. When Ishu thought for a moment and said, "The shots are coming from the faculty dormitory complex." When Ian frowned. The only people likely to possess firearms right now were military troops, so he decided to investigate. "Let's go check it out. We might be able to make contact with the army." No one objected, and the group set off toward the gunfire. The closer they drew, the more zombies crowded the surrounding area. When they reached the faculty dormitories, they saw a squad of roughly a dozen soldiers huddled at a stairwell entrance, surrounded by hordes of zombies, including multiple Tier 1 variants. When Ishu recognized one of the people the soldiers were protecting, "That's our school principal over there." After a quick assessment, when Ian resolved to lend aid and issued orders, "Little sister and Jai, provide long-distance support. Zhang Hao and I will charge in to evacuate them." He drew his broadsword and charged forward first, with Zhang Hao close behind, gripping his combat staff and angling its tip toward the ground. Every swing of when Ian's heated broadsword cut down multiple zombies at once. The blade burned hot enough to cauterize wounds instantly, leaving no blood splatter behind. Zhang Hao's combat staff was equally lethal. Any zombie it touched collapsed on the spot, single sweeps felling entire clusters. The two quickly carved out a clear safe zone. Any Tier 1 zombies hiding to ambush them were precisely eliminated by Wen Ishu and Zhang Jia from a distance. The soldiers at the stairwell stared in complete astonishment at the seamless coordination of Wen Ian's team. They had fought tooth and nail to escort Dr. Chen this far, having lost most of their platoon to the hordes, leaving only a single squad remaining. Every time they fired their guns, the noise drew even more zombies, so they'd been forced to rely mostly on melee combat. It was not long before every zombie in the vicinity had been wiped out. When Ian and Zhang Hao walked up to the soldiers, lifted their masks, and saluted. "I'm Wen Ian, a local survivor. What mission are you carrying out?" The lead soldier relaxed slightly and returned the salute. "We owe you our thanks, brother. I'm platoon leader Zhao Gang from the mobile battalion. Our orders are to evacuate Dr. Chun to safety." When Ian glanced past him at the white-haired Dr. Chun, the balding school principal Huang, and a middle-aged woman beside them, then frowned. "Your current numbers are far too thin to safely get him out of here." Zhao Gang sighed, his tone resolute. "No matter the odds, we will complete our mission at all costs." When Ian felt a surge of respect for the soldiers, whom he'd always held in high regard. "Do you have a larger unit coming to rendezvous with you?" Zhao Gang nodded. "A full regiment will pass through the evacuation zone tomorrow. Our job is to deliver Dr. Chun to them before they move out." Relief washed over Wen Ian upon hearing this. The military hadn't fallen, and they still maintained control. An idea popped into his head after a moment of thought, and he voiced it. "I know another group of survivors nearby, including 2 ability wielders who are waiting for military rescue. You could travel with them for safety, and our group can escort you part of the way tomorrow." Zhao Gang's face lit up. With these powerful ability users backing them, their chances of completing the mission would rise dramatically. "We're extremely grateful for your offer." When Ian waved off his thanks and led the soldiers toward the cafeteria. Along the way, he asked Zhao Gang curiously, "Lieutenant Zhao, why is Dr. Chen such a priority worth risking so many lives over?" Zhao Gang shook his head. "I don't know all the details, but I've heard he's a leading expert in energy research whose work could uncover the root cause of this apocalypse." When Ian nodded thoughtfully and asked no further questions, the path ahead was nearly clear of zombies, and they reached the cafeteria doors unhindered. He knocked loudly. "Open up. I've brought a pleasant surprise for everyone." Commotion erupted inside, and Lin Xinran pulled the door open. Chun Lei stood beside her, complaining, "Don't think you can take more supplies this time." When Ian lifted his mask and rolled his eyes, "We don't care about your food. Take a look at who we've brought with us." Lin Xinran gasped. "Soldiers, you're incredible, brethren." The survivors behind Chun Lei erupted into excitement. "It's the military. We're saved. That's Principal Huang. Dr. Chun and his assistant are here too. You guys are amazing. I misjudged you earlier." Chun Lei froze for a moment, then frowned and shouted at the people behind him, "Quiet. Let them in first." The authority Chun Lei had built up over this period took effect, and the crowd gradually fell silent. When Ian's group filed inside, and the large gate slammed shut afterward, only then did Chun Lei ask urgently, "Did the military come to rescue us? What's going on here?" When Ian detailed everything that had happened and laid out his plan for him, Chun Lei did not hesitate after hearing it and nodded his approval at once. He had no reason to refuse. They would link up with the military and gain support from Wen Ian's crew to boot. As for the rest of the survivors, they were even more agreeable, voicing their unanimous consent. Once they finished ironing out the plan, when Ian left the cafeteria, Instead of heading straight back to the dormitory, he returned to the faculty dormitory building once more. His motive was simple enough. Chunlei's group would surely suffer casualties during the rescue operation, and there was no way they could retrieve every fallen soldier's gear each time someone died. Sure enough, when Ian spotted a dead soldier lying in a third-floor hallway and stripped all usable equipment off the corpse. His haul included 1 pistol, 1 assault rifle, 3 grenades, and a combat knife. Dusk fell. The 4 returned to their dorm room and bolted the door, the distant snarls of zombies drifting faintly through the walls. He pulled up the door's upgrade panel. Item: hollow wooden door. Energy required for material upgrade, 10 points. Energy required for design upgrade, 10 points. Energy required for function upgrade, 10 points. Energy required for item modification, 50 points. Current energy points, 236. He selected the material upgrade option. The wooden door transformed into a sturdy security door that looked impenetrable, and running a hand over its cool metal surface filled him with a surge of safety. When Ian arranged a rotating night watch for the 4 of them, he would take the first shift, followed by Zhang Hao, Zhang Jiai, and Wen Yishu in turn. He grabbed a travel backpack and opened its upgrade panel. Item: travel backpack. Energy required for material upgrade, 10 points. Energy required for design upgrade, 10 points. Energy required for function upgrade, 10 points. Energy required for item modification, 50 points. Current energy points, 226. When Ian selected all 3 standard upgrade options, then checked the updated item stats. Item: survival backpack. Description: this backpack's main body is crafted from ultra-high molecular weight polyethylene composite fabric, cut-resistant, waterproof, and fireproof. Hydraulic shock-absorbing airbags built into the shoulder straps drastically boost wearer comfort. When Ian nodded in satisfaction, the backpack fit his needs perfectly, boasting far greater storage capacity, nearly matching that of a military pack. Glancing at the modification option, he gave in and clicked it, then read the new description. Item: biogenic backpack decomposer. Description: the backpack's lining is woven with bioactive enzyme fibers. Any organic matter stuffed inside, leaves, insect carcasses, zombie fragments, will break down into high-density nutrient paste within 2 hours, stored in a silicone food pouch sewn into the inner lining. When Ian's eyes widened, barely holding back a gasp, this thing could turn zombie flesh straight into edible paste. The only hurdle would be overcoming the mental revulsion. He modified 2 chocolate bars next. The triple reaction boost they granted mid-combat was far too valuable to pass up, and handed one to Zhang Hao. He reworked the leather jacket Zhang Jiai wore into scaled combat armor, and upgraded her helmet into an ecological battle helmet. The combat helmet could rapidly mark Tier 1 zombies amid hordes, a massive tactical advantage for her fights. He checked his remaining energy points afterward. Current energy points, 18. He sighed internally. These energy points burned through far too quickly. The night passed without incident. Early the next morning, when Yishu, finishing the final watch, shook Ian's arm. "Brother, wake up, the sun's high already." When Ian stirred awake, rubbing his bleary eyes, Wen Yishu tilted her chin toward the side and said, "Brother, he's all yours to rouse." When Ian glanced over at Zhang Hao, who slept soundly like a log, and noticed Zhang Jiai was already awake, watching downloaded shows on her phone offline. A mischievous grin tugged at Ian's lips. He shook Zhang Hao roughly. "Zhang Hao, wake up, your partner left you for someone else." Zhang Hao rolled over in a daze, so when Ian shook him again and repeated the line, Zhang Hao jolted upright in a panic. "Who ran off with my partner?" Zhang Jiai burst out laughing beside them. "Zhang Hao, since when have you had a partner?" "Ha ha." When Yishu covered her mouth to stifle giggles too. Zhang Hao finally caught on, staring flatly at Ian with a dark expression. When Ian clapped his shoulder, chuckling. "All right, get up and get packed. We're moving out." Once everyone was ready, they set off. They reached the cafeteria entrance, encountering only a handful of aimlessly wandering zombies along the way. He knocked on the cafeteria gate, and someone rushed to open it moments later. The convoy assembled quickly, when Ian's squad and 2 ability users led the way as vanguard, while the soldiers secured the flanks and rear. When the group reached the school gate, when Ian spotted more than a dozen girls fending off a zombie horde with iron rods and broken desks. A female ability user stood at their front, slaying zombies one after another with slicing gusts of wind. Several Tier 1 zombies lurked within the horde, ambushing the girls from behind with every opening, claiming one victim each time they struck. The situation hung by a thread. Some girls wept openly from fear and grief, yet kept swinging their makeshift weapons all the same. When Ian instantly recognized this as Lu Siyu's small group and shouted, "Hurry, go help them." He charged headlong into the zombie swarm, sending chunks of undead flesh flying everywhere. When Lu Siyu's crew laid eyes on Wen Ian, their first reaction was not relief, but faint dread. With backup from Wen Ian's squad, Lu Siyu's group was pulled out of danger in short order. Lu Siyu stood gasping, drenched in sweat, and asked, "What are you doing here?" Wen Ian curled his lip. "I just saved all of you, and not a single word of thanks." Lu Siyu's mouth twitched. "Thank you then." Dropping his teasing tone, Wen Ian grew serious. "This group is heading to link up with the military. Do you want to come along?" Lu Siyu's face lit up, nodding rapidly. "Yes, absolutely, we're coming." And so when Ian's convoy gained another ability user, he turned back to the battlefield. Lin Shinran weaved through the zombies like a nimble cat, her shadow dagger slitting a zombie's throat with every pass. Chun Lei fought with brutal simplicity. Every punch unleashed compressed air with devastating force, caving in zombie skulls. He then drew in fresh air to compress once more, repeating the motion nonstop. A Tier 1 zombie tried to sneak up on Chun Lei, its claws halted mid-strike by an invisible wall of air. Chun Lei closed the gap and crushed it with a point-blank air punch. When Ian marveled silently, top-tier abilities truly broke all rules of fair combat. The dozens of zombies were wiped out in short order. The group pressed forward along their planned route. When Ian intended to clear every zombie they crossed, both to stockpile energy points and let the survivors sharpen their combat skills. He reached the SUV they'd left parked nearby and pulled up its upgrade panel. Item: gasoline SUV. Energy required for material upgrade, 200 points. Energy required for design upgrade, 200 points. Energy required for function upgrade, 200 points. Energy required for item modification, 1,000 points. Current energy points, 368. Wincing at the cost, he selected the material upgrade. The entire SUV instantly restored to pristine condition. To test its reinforced frame, he drew his combat blade and slashed hard at the car door. Screech, a harsh metallic shriek rang out, leaving only a deep scratch across the panel. When Ian was thrilled with the result, that blade could slice clean through a Tier 1 zombie's neck with ease, yet barely marked the vehicle's surface. He glanced at Professor Chun, sheltered in the center of the group, and decided to lend the SUV to the scholar. From Zhao Gang's account, Professor Chun was a leading energy science researcher, and his expertise might unravel the truth behind the apocalypse. He told Zhao Gang to escort Professor Chun into the SUV first. Principal Huang and his assistant shamelessly squeezed their way aboard too, but when Ian said nothing to stop them, he reminded Zhao Gang firmly, "I'm lending this car to you. Make sure you return it later." Professor Chun paid no mind to the conversation, entirely fixated on the vehicle. He tapped and knocked across its frame, studying its unusual construction intently. They cut down swarms of zombies as they traveled. With each undead they eliminated, the group's fear of the creatures faded bit by bit. As they carved an unobstructed path through the hordes, an invisible ring slowly closed around them. If someone looked down from the sky, they would see endless masses of zombies completely encircling their position. When Ian began to sense that something was off, zombie density kept climbing, and Tier 1 zombies made up an ever larger share of the horde. The survivors' stamina drained rapidly, and the soldiers' ammunition ran dangerously low. Meanwhile, more zombies poured in by the second. If this kept up, they would all be overwhelmed. When Ian first conjured dozens of vitality springs and passed them to the frontline fighters, then racked his brain for a viable plan. Watching the soldiers firing their guns non-stop, he slapped his forehead. Of course, he still carried the gear he'd looted from the fallen soldier days prior, stashed in his backpack. He pulled out a pistol and opened its upgrade panel. Item: pistol. Energy required for material upgrade, 100 points. Energy required for design upgrade, 100 points. Energy required for function upgrade, 100 points. Energy required for item modification, 500 points. Current energy points, 1203. He selected all 3 standard upgrades, then took aim at distant zombies and fired. Bang! The bullet tore through one zombie's skull without losing momentum, piercing a second before finally stopping inside a third corpse. When Ian clicked the modification option next, the pistol's shape shifted drastically, its barrel lengthening and thickening, the magazine replaced with a drum feed. He aimed at the dense zombie horde and pulled the trigger. A grenade-sized projectile launched from the muzzle, passing straight through one zombie before detonating. A violent shockwave roiled outward, carrying blistering heat that sent over a dozen zombies flying through the air. Satisfied with the firepower, stronger even than Zhang Zishuan's fireballs, he checked the modified weapon's stats. Item: High Explosive Grenade Hand Cannon. Description: A seamless fusion of grenade launcher and pistol, retaining the handgun's portability, pinpoint accuracy, and manageable recoil while packing grenade-level destructive force. Each 5 grenade rounds consume 1 energy point. When Ian fired the hand cannon continuously, drastically easing pressure on the front lines. Yet more zombies surged from the rear, forcing Chunlei and Lin Xinran to rush back to hold the rear guard. As the horde swelled, even the 2 powerful ability users began to falter. Determined to turn the tide, when Ian pulled a grenade from his backpack and opened its upgrade panel. Item: Fragmentation Grenade. Energy required for material upgrade, 20 points. Energy required for design upgrade, 20 points. Energy required for function upgrade, 20 points. Energy required for item modification, 100 points. Current energy points, 483. He skipped minor testing and upgraded and modified it to its maximum potential in one go. Item: Gravity Grenade Gravity Pull. Description: This device draws all targets into a single cluster before detonating, with a 100-meter blast radius. His jaw tightened as he read the description. If he'd tossed it without checking, the blast might have wiped out their entire group. He opened a comms channel to Wen Yishu through his helmet, handed her the gravity grenade, and told her to use her telekinesis to hurl it into the massive zombie horde at their rear. Guided by invisible mental force, the grenade arced toward the undead mass like a guided missile and landed dead center. An intense gravitational pull erupted at its impact site, yanking every zombie within 100 meters into a writhing pile of flesh. A split second later, a devastating shockwave laced with searing heat exploded outward, blinding white light bursting forth as a towering mushroom cloud billowed into the air. When the smoke cleared, a 100-meter-wide crater scarred the ground, fully severing the rear zombie reinforcements from their position. When Ian checked his remaining energy points and frowned, he hadn't gained the massive surge of points he'd expected from the blast. A thought struck him. Could there be a maximum distance for energy point absorption? He reconnected to Wen Yishu's comms. "Yishu, carry me to the edge of the crater." An invisible force lifted him off his feet and swept him toward the pit's rim. Energy points began spiking rapidly once he closed to roughly 100 meters from the blast zone. The influx stabilized only after he landed at the crater's edge. Current energy points, 1093. He lifted his gaze to the far side of the crater and caught sight of a figure with a skull twice the size of ordinary zombies, lurking furtively. He focused intently. This zombie lingered hidden in the horde, observing him with sharp, lucid eyes, a stark contrast to the mindless creatures surrounding it. When Ian's pupils constricted, a sentient zombie, he locked his gaze on the creature while drawing his hand cannon from his waist in one fluid motion. The sentient zombie sensed mortal danger and darted left and right through the undead crowd to evade sight. When Ian's helmet locked onto its position non-stop as he squeezed the trigger repeatedly, firing round after explosive shell. Range weakened the hand cannon's precision, yet one shell landed directly beside the sentient zombie. A shrill, agonizing shriek cut through the air. The creature was sent flying several meters, a gash torn across its face by shrapnel, dark viscous blood oozing from the wound. It scrambled unsteadily to its feet, fixed when Ian with a gaze burning with hatred, then spun and vanished deep within the horde. When Ian watched its retreating silhouette and sighed. This was a costly loss. Not only had he failed to eliminate the creature, he'd earned its bitter vendetta. He returned to the front lines. With the sentient zombie gone, no more undead poured into the fight. When Ian told the entire group about the intelligent mutant, sparking widespread shock, none could believe zombies had evolved sentience so quickly. Once the last of the surrounding zombies were slain, when Ian announced that his squad would split off from the main convoy, Chunlei's group was reluctant to see them go. Without Ian's team, they likely never would have made it this far, yet they could not force them to stay. After bidding the convoy farewell, when Ian's squad set off toward Huanghe department store, they encountered very few zombies along the way. When Ian suspected the sentient mutant had drawn most of the horde elsewhere, the squad reached Huanghe department store without incident, where dozens of ordinary zombies roamed the interior. When Ian told everyone to split up and scavenge supplies, using their helmet comms to contact each other if trouble arose, he judged that even a surprise attack from a Tier 1 zombie posed no real threat to his well-equipped squad. When Ian headed alone for the cinema on the 4th floor, reaching its entrance without a single Tier 1 zombie crossing his path, the journey had gone far too smoothly, leaving a faint sense of unease gnawing at his chest. Yet all misgivings vanished the moment he laid eyes on the humanoid mech model he'd been eager to find, a surge of excitement rushing through him. He opened its upgrade panel. Item, metal mech model. Energy required for material upgrade, 500 points. Energy required for design upgrade, 500 points. Energy required for function upgrade, 500 points. Energy required for item modification, 3,500 points. Current energy points, 1564. He grimaced. Upgrading a tiny mech model cost an astronomical amount of energy. Gritting his teeth, he committed all his available points. Something this expensive had to be worth the cost. The mech model blurred, swirling currents of mysterious power wrapping around its frame. 5 full minutes passed before the transformation finished, revealing a brand new silver-white mech with sleek aerodynamic plating, a glowing blue diamond energy core embedded in its chest. Lines of scarlet text suddenly appeared floating before his eyes. Single upgrade consuming over 1,000 energy points detected. System initiating automatic upgrade. All core functions disabled during system upgrade. Energy point collection remains active. System upgrade countdown. 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 40 seconds. He looked forward eagerly to the new features the upgraded system would unlock, unconcerned by the full-day wait. 24 hours would pass in the blink of an eye. He removed his helmet and stowed it in his backpack, then climbed into the mech's cockpit and synced the squad communication channel to the machine's onboard radio. The second the channel connected, when Ishu's panicked shout crackled through the speakers. A Tier 2 zombie is attacking me. When Ian's brow furrowed sharply as he tucked his old helmet into his pack. Where are you? I'm coming right away. I'm on the second floor, inside the MB clothing boutique. He slung his backpack over one shoulder and sprinted down the stairs, speaking into the mech's comms as he ran. Hold out. I'll be there momentarily. Zhang Hao, Zhang Jia, stay vigilant. This is almost certainly retaliation from that sentient zombie we encountered earlier. 1 minute earlier, when Ishu was leisurely browsing high-end clothing, suddenly a shadow darted across her line of sight. Her nerves went taut at once, and she released her telekinesis outward. She spotted a heavily muscled zombie lunging straight for her at blistering speed. She pushed the zombie away with her mental power while pulling herself backward with the same ability, narrowly dodging the attack by a hair's breadth. She swiftly took flight upward to put distance between herself and the creature, then sent out a distress signal reporting the incident. Seeing its strike fail, the second-tier zombie retreated rapidly. She let out a relieved breath and spoke into the communication channel. It's pulled back. Everyone stay alert. It might be heading your way. Report your positions, all of you. Zhang Hao's voice crackled through the channel. Zhang Jia and I are in the supermarket on the basement floor. There are several first-tier zombies here. A streak of white light shot toward the entrance of the MD clothing store. It was when Ishu's first instinct was that another zombie had appeared, and surges of telekinetic power welled up around her. When she saw the figure encased in silvery mech armor, she froze for a split second. It dawned on her right away. This had to be the modified suit her brother had just finished building. Sure enough, when Ian's voice echoed from inside the helmet. Let's go. We'll link up with Zhang Hao and the others. When Ishu nodded, a surge of telekinesis lifted her off the ground, yet when Ian standing beside her didn't shift an inch. Confused, she poured more mental energy into her power, only to meet total resistance. She finally gave up. Fine beads of sweat dotted her forehead as she huffed out a sentence. Brother, this mech of yours weighs an absolute ton. When Ian scratched the back of his neck sheepishly. Hee, I'll work on swapping out the heavy frame first thing tomorrow. The two jumped straight from the upper floor. When Ishu drifted gently down to the basement level, while when Ian landed far less gracefully. Boom. A deafening crash rang out. He dropped from the second floor, hitting the ground in a knee slide. The armor absorbed all impact without a scratch, yet the tile beneath him spiderwebbed with cracks. As he stood after landing, he caught sight of a nimble shape sprinting toward the supermarket. A cold jolt shot through him. Knowing danger was imminent, he raced after the figure while shouting over the comms. Zhang Hao, Zhang Jia, watch out. A second-tier zombie is bearing down on your location. He burst into the supermarket just in time to see the second-tier zombie leap high, its razor claws swiping straight for Zhang Jia. Zhang Jia's pupils shrank to pinpricks. The deadly claws loomed larger and larger before her eyes, time seeming to slow to a crawl. Zhang Hao watched the scene in helpless rage, powerless to intervene. When Ian had already raised his right arm, the grenade launcher mounted on his mech locking onto the evolved zombie. At this critical split second, an arrow cut through the air, slamming precisely into the zombie's attacking claw. The strike veered wide, missing Zhang Jiai entirely. The moment the zombie landed, a grenade blast sent it flying. A thick stench of burnt flesh filled the air, the impact zone on its body blackened and charred. When Ian glanced toward where the arrow had originated, a woman with a high ponytail stood there, clad in sleek form-fitting biker leather, an athletic compound bow still held in her hands. Without pausing to question her presence, when Ian charged forward to confront the injured zombie, drawing the combat blade sheathed at his waist, Zhang Hao sprinted over as well, gripped tight on his tactical combat device, eyes fixed unblinkingly on the monster. When Ishu hadn't even reached the scene yet, but floating throwing knives controlled by her telekinesis arrived ahead of her. Zhang Jiai raised her plasma pistol, aiming steadily at the second-tier zombie, her heart hammering against her ribs. When Ian warned the group over the channel, "Step back, everyone. Its claws could pierce your protective gear. A zombie virus infection would spell disaster." The evolved zombie let out a deafening roar and lunged straight for Ian. When Ian let out a cold huff and slashed downward with his blade, the zombie caught the weapon in one claw while swiping its other hand toward his chest. The blade met unexpected resistance. Instead of slicing clean through flesh, it was clamped fast. The claw clutching the blade began to melt and bubble from the weapon's corrosive energy, but the zombie's free hand raked several deep gashes across when Ian's armor plating. He raised his left arm and fired another point-blank grenade blast. The creature was hurled backward once more. Deep wariness flickered in its eyes, and it darted sideways past when Ian, desperate to flee through the gap. A shadowy dagger silently streaked toward its skull. Sensing the threat, it lifted its mangled, melting palm to block. The blade pierced straight through its hand. The zombie twisted its head, the dagger slicing a gash along its cheek as it narrowly avoided a fatal head wound. Ignoring the injury, it kept scrambling to escape until another arrow whistled through the air and buried itself in its raised foot. The zombie crashed face first onto the concrete floor. When Ian vaulted high, landing squarely on its back, driving his combat blade down toward its skull, the monster thrashed wildly, clawing at the embedded weapon. The blade sank inch by inch into its cranium until the zombie's struggles ceased entirely. A translucent, crystalline core rolled free onto the ground. When Ian narrowed his eyes and picked it up, this had to be the energy core hidden within a zombie's brain, the crystal nucleus. Unfortunately, his system was currently offline, so he couldn't pull up item stats. He stowed the nucleus in his spatial backpack for later. He lifted his mech helmet and walked toward the archer woman nearby. He'd intended to ask about her identity, but the closer he drew, the more familiar her features felt. The question that came out instead was, "Miss, have I met you somewhere before?" The archer let out an amused chuckle. "Young man, that pickup line's far too outdated." When Ian's mouth twitched in embarrassment. "I'm being serious. I swear we've crossed paths somewhere." She arched an eyebrow. "I've been overseas for years and only just came back recently. There's no way you'd recognize me." When Ian frowned and dropped the subject, extending his right hand. "I'm Wen Ian. What's your name?" She shook his hand firmly. "Lin Xueqing. I own an archery training club." Her name also struck a familiar chord. A memory surfaced of a neighbor girl he'd known as a child with the exact same name. He asked quickly, "Did you live in Unit 13A01 of Jincheng Residential Complex years ago?" Lin Xueqing's eyes widened in surprise. "That's right. How do you know that?" When Ian slapped his forehead and smiled. "Don't you remember? I tagged along after you everywhere as a kid. I thought you died saving me from that kidnapper." Lin Xueqing thought back for a moment. Then realization dawned. She patted her chest and laughed. "It's you. That small-time criminal couldn't hold me captive for long. I escaped on the way to wherever he was taking me. After that, my parents thought staying in the country was too dangerous and moved us abroad." When Ian fell silent for a beat, then spoke flatly. "I spent years racked with guilt thinking you'd lost your life because of me. There were nights I'd wake up and beat myself for letting that happen." Lin Xueqing laughed until her sides ached. The other three standing by, quietly observing their conversation, fought hard to hold back their laughter, eyes watering from the effort. After calming down, she grinned. "You really were such a sweet kid back then." When Ian's expression turned dark. "Cut the teasing, Sister Qing. Would you join our squad?" Lin Xueqing agreed without hesitation. When Ian pulled his spare tactical helmet out of his backpack and handed it to her. "Sister Qing, this is an ecological combat helmet. Try it on." She took the helmet and fitted it over her head. Their four-person squad officially expanded to 5 members. The group traveled together afterward without running into further danger, each hauling a bulging supply backpack. They were about to leave the shopping mall when a volley of gunfire and explosions echoed from the distance. When Ian made an immediate decision, head for the rooftop. That has to be the main military convoy arriving. The squad climbed to the rooftop and stared out toward the source of the gunfire. Artillery fire and clouds of smoke blanketed the national highway far off in the distance. Multiple armored vehicles could be seen advancing steadily forward, while thousands upon thousands of zombies surged relentlessly toward the military formation. When Ian hesitated inwardly, weighing whether to head toward the troops. Tagging along with the main army would undoubtedly earn him massive energy points, yet it also meant being swarmed by endless hordes of zombies, cranking the danger level to its peak. After careful deliberation, he resolved to go. First, zombies were evolving rapidly, and conventional firearms would likely grow less effective over time. Second, the military formation stood as a vital pillar of hope for all surviving humans. If their ranks collapsed entirely, humanity's morale would suffer an irreversible blow. Lastly, many of his weapons had already hit their upgrade caps. He needed to collaborate with the military to gain access to higher-grade armaments and bolster his squad's combat strength. Having settled on his plan, he signaled the others to move out. He stripped off his scaled leather outer armor and passed it to Lin Xueqing, then donned the heavy mech suit beneath her curious gaze. As the squad exited the mall, when Ian issued a warning, "We'll move cautiously. Avoid drawing the attention of first- and second-tier zombies. If the horde turns and surrounds us, we won't stand a chance." The five crept stealthily toward the rear of the military convoy, encountering only scattered straggler zombies along the way. Nearly all the undead had been lured toward the front lines by the troop activity. Any lone zombies they crossed paths with were eliminated silently. The road was littered with mangled corpses, the landscape ravaged beyond recognition. A sickening blend of burnt flesh, gunpowder, and rot hung thick in the air, nauseating to breathe. They stepped carefully over fallen undead as they advanced. Every so often, a half-dead zombie would suddenly twitch and stretch its arms out to grab them. Yet none could pierce their protective gear before being neutralized. When Ian mentally checked his reserves, current energy points, 385. His point tally climbed steadily with every few steps he took. They reached a shadowed corner close to the military lines, watching waves of hundreds of zombies crash against the soldiers' position ahead. Dense masses of undead clogged the roadway until a dozen artillery shells launched from the military vehicles streaked through the air. Boom, boom, boom. The shells detonated, tearing countless zombies to pieces. The surviving creatures kept charging forward, only to be mowed down by machine gun fire mounted on the armored transports. One Ian shouted over his helmet comms, "Now's our window. Charge forward." At his command, the five sprinted ahead. One Ian's helmet broadcast a repeated announcement. "We're a civilian survivor squad, friendly forces." They dispatched a handful of stray zombies and easily reached the front line of the armored column. Several soldiers jumped down from the vehicles, rifles raised and aimed at them. "Freeze. We need to verify your identities." The squad exchanged quick glances and lifted their face shields. Zhang Hao offered a reassuring smile. "We're all human survivors, comrades." Relief washed over the soldiers upon seeing their unmarked human faces, though they kept their weapons raised, remaining vigilant. Only after receiving clearance over their radio did the troops lower their firearms. One soldier stepped forward to speak. "Our commanding officer requests an audience with all of you." When Ian nodded, and the group followed him to an armored command vehicle. A middle-aged officer with a square jaw greeted them with a warm smile. "I'm Li Weiguo, brigade commander of the Rongqing Garrison Brigade. We've long heard word of a capable combat team operating out of Rongqing First University. Welcome to our formation." As he spoke, his gaze swept over their equipment, lingering longest on Ian's striking mech armor. When Ian smiled in return, "Greetings, Commander Li. When our nation faces ruin, every one of us must step forward to defend what's left. That said, rather than formally enlisting in the military, I'd prefer to strike a cooperative arrangement." Commander Li's smile never faded, but the adjutant standing beside him frowned, his tone sharp with disapproval. "Are you intending to carve out your own independent faction?" When Ian shook his head calmly, "If humanity can overcome this apocalyptic crisis, we'll happily remain loyal citizens of our federation. If not, securing our own safe haven will become a necessary choice." Li Weiguo held up a hand to quiet his adjutant, choosing not to dwell on the comment. "Young man, outline your terms for this cooperation." When Ian straightened his posture, speaking earnestly, "I can temporarily attach my squad to your unit and provide escort support to your destination. In exchange, you supply us with military arms and supplies. Moving forward, We can establish a formal trade partnership for weapons and other critical resources. He drew his combat blade to demonstrate its cutting power as he finished speaking. Surprise flickered across Li Weigua's features, while the adjutant stared on in stunned silence. Li Weigua fell into thought for a moment before agreeing. Very well, I accept your terms. We won't require your combat assistance for the time being. Report to the superhuman ability user transport bus first. When Ian was surprised by how readily the commander conceded to his proposal, he nodded his thanks. We appreciate your trust. To prove our good faith, I'll share all the intelligence we've gathered on the zombies. He recounted everything they'd learned about first-tier zombies, evolved second-tier variants, and intelligent undead leaders. Li Weigua's expression turned grave once the report ended. The rate of zombie evolution far outpaces our military projections. Thank you for this vital intelligence. When Ian waved off the gratitude and gave a slight bow. It's no trouble, Commander. Reach out if our squad can offer any further aid. With that, the group exited the command vehicle and followed a soldier to a separate passenger bus. 6 other survivors occupied the bus, a young man with bleached blonde hair, a shy teenage girl, and a bespectacled, mild-mannered young man. The 3 superhuman ability users they'd met back at the university were also seated aboard. Chun Lei and his 2 companions spotted them and stood to greet the squad. Lin Shinran hurried over, running a hand lightly over Ian's mech plating. Brotherin, this armor is incredible. When will I get a suit like this? Ishu gently guided her hand away, smiling to redirect the conversation. Shinran, you arrived ahead of us. Can you explain the current setup of the convoy? Lin Shinran nodded and filled them in. The convoy split into 4 groups: military troops, ability user transports, elite survivor caravans, and regular civilian survivor vehicles. This bus belongs to the ability user division, housing every person with awakened powers we've rescued. The elite caravan carries specialized professionals we pulled from danger zones, while the civilian group holds ordinary survivors with no powers. The 5 found empty seats to settle into, and Lin Shinran continued detailing the other ability users on board. Only 3 power wielders were on this bus before your group arrived. She subtly tilted her chin toward the blonde youth, lowering her voice. That blonde guy controls light energy. His power's fairly limited in combat. He has to channel light for ages just to take down a regular zombie. She gestured toward the quiet girl beside him next. The young woman there manipulates plant life, and the bespectacled man directly in front of her has X-ray vision. Her tone sharpened at the mention of him. I warned him if he tried using his power to peek at anyone, I'd neutralize his ability entirely. Ian's lips twitched in amusement, amazed at the full spectrum of unique powers humanity had awakened. Lin Shinran chattered on. I heard a famous pop vocalist named Su Wanqing's with the elite caravan. I'm a huge fan of hers. I'd give anything to get her autograph. She rambled beside him, while Ian sorted through the valuable intel she'd shared. He checked his energy point balance again. Current energy points, 1365. He mentally praised his own judgment. Joining the military convoy had absolutely been the right call, letting him passively accumulate energy points nonstop. The convoy traveled onward for some time, fending off several subsequent zombie horde assaults, though each wave grew smaller in size. They hadn't spotted a single first-tier zombie in the later skirmishes, let alone rare second-tier variants. A vague sense of unease gnawed at Ian, yet he couldn't pinpoint what felt off. More rescued survivors joined the convoy as they advanced, along with 1 additional ability user. The new arrival was a powerfully built man who appeared to have worked as a fitness trainer before the apocalypse. He boarded without uttering a word, quietly claiming an empty seat. The military's rescue operations proceeded smoothly, and word spread that the main convoy planned to turn back for their base once their sweep route was complete. A second male ability user boarded the bus a short while later. He had a slender, fair frame and carried an air of quiet stability, his eyes sharp and alert. Ian checked his energy reserves once more. Current energy points, 1956. A frown creased his brow. After several hours of travel, his point gain fell far short of what he'd anticipated. His unease had swelled to an unbearable level. He stepped off the bus, channeling power through his mech to launch himself onto the vehicle's roof. Standing atop the bus, he scanned the entire battlefield stretching out before him. Zombies still surged toward the front military lines, yet their numbers had dwindled drastically, and not a single evolved first-tier undead could be seen anywhere. The imbalance defied all logic. A terrifying thought hit him, the intelligent zombie leaders hiding in the shadows. A cold dread settled in his chest. Were they gathering all their forces to launch one massive, final all-out assault? His brows knotted tight as he watched soldiers escort dozens more rescued survivors into the convoy's ranks. That was it. The intelligent undead were waiting for the military to gather every last survivor in one concentrated cluster before striking. They intended to let the human group swell to its largest size before wiping them all out in a single attack. A chill ran down when Ian's spine at the realization. He leaped back down from the bus roof and grabbed a passing soldier's arm urgently. "Take me straight to your commanding officer at once. I've critical intelligence he needs to hear immediately." The soldier froze in shock, then lifted his radio to send an emergency report to headquarters. When Ian quickly climbed back onto the command vehicle, before Liwegwa could speak, he took the initiative to say, "Chief Lee, these zombies are massing their forces. They plan to wait until we gather a large number of survivors and wipe us all out in one fell swoop." Liwegwa frowned, while the adjutant beside him scoffed at his words. He sneered, "Captain Wen, aren't you overthinking this? Leaving aside whether intelligent zombies even exist, we haven't spotted a single second-order zombie yet." When Ian let out a cold huff. "Chief Lee, believe me or not, if you doubt our words, my team can split off from the main formation at any time." The adjutant was about to retort, but Liwegwa raised a hand to cut him off. He furrowed his brows and said, "Captain Wen, I don't distrust you. If what you say is true, what course of action do you recommend?" When Ian pondered for a moment before replying, "Deploy all ability users to the front lines in advance. Once full-scale combat erupts, they can enter the fray immediately and stop the frontline defenses from being breached unexpectedly. On top of that, your troops will get to observe the full range of their powers. This plan carries nothing but benefits." Liwegwa nodded and approved the proposal. As when Ian had said, there was no downside, leaving him no reason to refuse. Orders were issued at once, and every ability user moved to the front line, standing by ready for battle. The main convoy had traveled halfway back without a single sign of trouble, even when Ian began to second-guess his judgment. It was at that very moment that a new wave of zombies appeared. Staring at the magnified feed displayed inside his helmet visor, when Ian's pupils constricted sharply, he could clearly see that half the creatures weaving through the horde were first-order zombies. He had no way of knowing if second-order variants lurked among them, yet the sheer proportion of first-order threats alone was terrifying enough. The soldiers fell back on their standard combat tactics, manning machine guns to mow down the front ranks of the undead. Once enough zombies clustered together, mortars would open fire to blast them apart. When Ian roared at the top of his lungs, "The zombies are launching their full assault. Hold nothing back. Hit them with heavy ordnance now. If they close within striking distance of our defenses, we're all dead." His voice blared through the communication headsets worn by every person on the battlefield. Unfortunately, few paid him heed. Only a handful of soldiers relayed his warning up the chain of command over their walkie-talkies. When Ian could only watch helplessly as the zombie tide advanced to within 100 meters. It was only then that the troops received official orders to open fire. Mortars positioned in the rear unleashed a volley of shells that slammed into the horde, sending countless ordinary zombies flying apart. Yet the first-order zombies only sustained minimal casualties. Scattered evenly throughout the mob, they drastically reduced their exposure to the blasts. When the first-order mutants reached the 100-meter mark, they suddenly burst into a sprint. Dodging behind ordinary zombies to shield themselves from gunfire, they charged straight for the soldiers manning machine guns atop armored vehicles. When Ian shouted again, "All long-range ability users, engage now. If our front line collapses, none of us will make it out alive." He drew his grenade pistol and fired non-stop at the undead, closing in within 100 meters. A storm of superhuman powers erupted alongside him. Razor wind blades, concussive air punches, fully charged energy beams, and more. Beyond his convoy's ability users, 3 uniformed military espers unleashed their powers as well. One commanded lightning, crackling bolts leaping from his palms. Every strike that seared through a zombie's skull brought an instant death. A second wielded earth manipulation, jagged stone spires erupting from the asphalt to impale charging monsters. The last was a physical enhancement esper. Any zombie that reached the barricade met a single crushing blow to the cranium, unable to so much as scratch his skin. When Ian thought the situation was under control until his gaze drifted inadvertently to the rear of the zombie horde. 3 towering figures had materialized out of nowhere, each standing no less than 5 meters tall with rippling, corded muscle. When Ian dubbed them Titans. At the same time, dozens of twisted, limbed abominations scuttled down the surrounding walls, moving at blistering speeds. He named these creatures Scuttlers. A chill ran down when Ian's spine. He was about to signal the command post via soldier messenger when a deafening fusillade of sniper fire erupted from the rear. More than a dozen scuttlers took precise headshots, their corpses crashing to the ground. Rocket launchers behind the lines loosed swarms of warheads, blanketing the ground ahead in explosions. Boom, boom, boom. Massive concussive shock waves rolled toward the main force, blinding frontline troops with smoke and temporarily deafening them. Gunfire stalled entirely, save for a small group of ability users unaffected by the blast who kept cutting down incoming zombies. As the smoke slowly cleared, everyone caught sight of the devastation ahead. The ground was pockmarked with craters, dozens of battered first-order zombies still staggering forward, and over a dozen second-order variants crawling out from piles of corpses in the rubble. The 3 Titan zombies were covered in mangled, charred flesh, yet they kept advancing at a steady run. Scuttlers poured endlessly out of every shadowed crevice, overwhelming the snipers who could no longer keep up with their numbers. One sniper locked onto a second-order zombie's head, but the mutant's heightened danger sense triggered an instinctive jerk of its skull, letting the bullet fly harmlessly past. Several soldiers hefted portable rocket launchers and aimed at one of the Titans. Trailing fire, the rockets streaked toward the giant creature, which reached out, seized one warhead mid-air, and crushed it in its grip. The projectile detonated instantly in its palm. The remaining rockets slammed into its torso one after another, tearing fresh bloody craters into its already mangled body. It let loose a thunderous roar, snatched several surviving first-order zombies off the ground, and stuffed them into its maw. Its muscles rippled and writhed beneath its skin, and its wounds knitted closed at a visible rate. When Ian gasped in shock, these Titans were monstrously overpowered. By this point, the dozen second-order zombies stood less than 100 meters away. When Ian yelled through his headset, "All ability users, charge with me," he switched to his squad's private channel and spoke to Zhang Hao. "Hao, keep Jiayi and Shueqing protected. Stay back as far as you can." After issuing the order, he drew his combat blade and charged forward first, when Ishu hot on his heels. Close behind them followed the 3 military espers, plus 3 ability users from First University. When Ian slashed at the nearest second-order zombie, which fished a steel rebar out of nowhere and swung it to block his blade. Screech. The rebar split cleanly in 2. When Ian took advantage of the opening to hack off one of the mutant's arms, then drove his blade toward its skull. The creature dodged backward at lightning speed, evading the killing strike, but it could not avoid the shadow dagger that had lain in wait. The shadow blade pierced its skull, spilling blood and dislodging a crystal core that floated automatically into an Ian's backpack under telekinetic control. Having eliminated that second-order zombie, he rushed onward to engage the rest. The lightning esper crackled with static, locked in brutal close combat with another second-order mutant. The earth esper encased himself in hardened stone armor, summoning multiple stone spires to pin a second-order zombie to the pavement. A gaping maw of dirt surged up from below to swallow the creature whole. Most foes would have perished trapped like that, yet this mutant forced its hands through the compacted soil, ripped the earthen prison apart, and landed a punch that sent the esper flying backward. Cracks spiderwebbed across his stone armor, but it reknit instantly as he rejoined the fight. The physical enhancement esper matched the second-order mutant blow for blow, their raw strength evenly matched as they clashed without a clear victor. Off to one side, Chun Lei faced off against another second-order zombie. His concussive air punches sent the mutant reeling backward, and an invisible air barrier wrapped around his body left him completely invulnerable to counterattacks. Lin Shinran lagged slightly in raw strength, but she relied on superior speed to circle and harry her opponent nonstop. Lu Xiu struggled to gain the upper hand. Her wind blades could wound, even decapitate second-order zombies. Yet the mutants moved with uncanny agility, making it nearly impossible for her to land a fatal cut to their necks. She narrowly escaped lethal blows time and again. 2 more espers joined the fray, a burly strength type whose brute force drove his target stumbling backward, and a lean, gaunt man sheathed in translucent bone armor, wielding a jagged bone blade that materialized in his grasp. The second-order zombie's claws only left faint scratches on his bony plating, while every slash of his blade bit deep into the monster's flesh. The final second-order zombie was held at bay by a group of remaining espers. A tiny blade of grass burst through the asphalt, shooting upward to grow into massive vines that coiled tight around the mutant's limbs. Zhang Jiayi raised her plasma pistol and fired a shot straight at the trapped zombie's skull, superheated plasma melting through its skin. It shrieked, tensing every muscle to snap the vine bindings, and lunged straight for Zhang Jiai, the greatest threat on the field. It had only taken 2 strides when an arrow buried itself precisely in one of its advancing feet. The mutant stumbled and crashed to the ground, fresh vines surging upward to bind it once more. Wen Ian slew another second-order zombie and lifted his gaze to the 3 advancing titans. The giants hoisted wrecked cars from the roadside, using them as makeshift shields to absorb a constant barrage of heavy weapons fire. They drew ever closer, now less than 100 meters from the defensive line. He glanced back over the battlefield. A lightning bolt that appeared to veer off course struck the second-order zombie locked in combat with the physical Esper. The mutant stumbled, caught off guard, and the Earth Esper trapped its limbs in shifting sand. The physical Esper seized the opening and hammered its skull to pulp before moving to assist his teammates against the remaining mutants. Among the first university trio, Chun Lei sent a second-order zombie, flying straight above Lu Xiyu's position. A razor wind blade sliced through its neck, severing its head from its torso. The Strength Esper snapped another mutant's neck with a single punch, while the Bone Esper drove his bone blade deep into a monster's eye socket. The Light Manipulation Esper finished charging his power and loosed a searing energy beam that pierced the skull of the mutant charging Zhang Jiai. Victory seemed all but assured, until a fresh horde of zombies poured out from the rear, launching yet another massive assault. Wen Ian quietly ordered Wen Yishu to slip through the carnage and collect the crystal cores from the fallen second-order zombies, telling her to eat a combat energy bar to sustain her stamina for the prolonged battle ahead. A shadow dagger silently sliced open a dead mutant's cranium, and telekinesis guided its crystal core into the backpack slung over Wen Yishu's shoulders. When Ian bit into a combat energy bar, his mind sharpening as the nutrient boost surged through his system. He stared grimly at the 3 titans and activated his mech's overclock mode. Overclock mode doubled energy consumption, boosted movement speed by 50%, and amplified the palm cannon's firepower by 30%. He had never tested the mech's integrated palm cannon before. Raising one hand, he fired at the exposed ankle of the nearest titan. Sizzle! A gaping, charred wound burrowed deep into the giant's leg. The titan roared, hefted a severely crumpled wrecked car overhead, and hurled it straight at Wen Ian. Instead of dodging, Wen Ian retracted his combat blade, resolved to test the mech's maximum load capacity. He bent his knees into a steady horse stance, leaned forward, and caught the flying vehicle firmly with both hands. He tossed the wreckage aside without effort, but the titan was already charging, swinging a massive fist straight at his torso. Wen Ian met the blow with his own fist. Crash! Wen Ian was sent flying several meters backward, slamming hard into a concrete wall, while the titan stood unshaken where it was. He slowly pushed himself upright, rolling his sore wrists. The wariness in his gaze toward the giant had faded noticeably. He drew his combat blade again and charged the titan once more. The giant threw another punch, which Wen Ian dodged by a hair's breadth. The fist slammed into the pavement, carving a crater and sending shards of stone flying in every direction. He capitalized on the opening to slash the titan's calf, sending the massive creature stumbling to one knee. He sprinted to the titan's head, leaped high, and drove his blade down toward its skull. The blade stuck fast in its forehead, blocked by impenetrably thick bone. The titan swatted him aside with one palm, sending him crashing through the wall of a nearby building. Waves of searing pain washed over Wen Ian's body, and blood churned in his throat. He forced himself to his feet and scanned the battlefield. The fallen titan was already pushing itself back upright, while the other 2 continued bearing down on the defenses. One was pinned down by a coordinated group of espers, yet the second charged past the barricades unopposed, laying waste to everything in its path. It lifted an armored troop carrier with both hands and hurled it at a machine gunner firing up at it. Wen Ian gritted his teeth and sprinted forward. He tripped the giant using the same feint as before, but this time he did not aim for the skull. He drove his blade straight into its eye. The combat blade slid through soft tissue as easily as cutting tofu, twisting to pulp the monster's brain inside its cranium. He pulled his blade free and turned to assess the field. Without sustained heavy weapons fire holding them back, swarms of regular zombies and scuttlers were drawing dangerously near. He glanced back at the defensive line. The fortifications had been smashed to ruins by the rampaging titans. The remaining espers fought to contain the other 2 giants, aided by Wen Yishu's telekinesis. Every time a titan landed a killing blow, her powers shoved the espers out of harm's way. Yet none could land a decisive strike on the giants in return. Wen Ian spoke into his squad channel to Wen Yishu. Yishu, their weak point is their eyes. Wen Yishu froze for a split second, her telekinetic hold faltering at the revelation. The Bone Esper took the chance the Titan seized, swatting him into a brick wall. Blood spilled from his mouth, and his bone armor split open across its entire surface in a network of fractures. When Ishu snapped back to focus, resuming her telekinetic support to stabilize the fight. When Ian charged straight for the second Titan rampaging through the defensive line. He fired a palm cannon blast at its skull, and the giant raised an arm to block instinctively. Dashing beneath its guard, he swept its legs out from under it with a sharp, practiced kick. He leaped atop the fallen Titan's skull, gripped his blade with both hands, and drove it deep into its eye socket. As he pulled the blade free, when Ishu seized her own opening and drove a high-frequency pulse dagger into the monster's other eye. When Ian surveyed the shattered barricades and the zombie horde less than 100 meters out, he let out a quiet sigh. Without heavy ordnance suppressing the waves, holding this line was all but impossible. A soldier rushed over and handed him a walkie-talkie. He took the device. Li Weiguo's voice crackled through the speaker. First, he thanked Wen Ian's squad for their critical support. Without them eliminating the Titans, the entire survivor convoy would have been wiped out. He then laid out the evacuation plan his command staff had drafted. The main force would split into several smaller detachments, each leading a contingent of survivors to break out along separate routes. He begged Wen Ian to take command of an infantry battalion and lead the elite survivor convoy to Rongqing Military Shelter, a secure compound established by the army. Wen Ian agreed without hesitation. The strategy made perfect sense. A single intelligent zombie corps could not coordinate assaults on multiple scattered groups at once. Before signing off, he laid out a list of requested armaments: 1 mortar, 1 armored vehicle, 2 heavy machine guns, and additional supplementary ordnance. Li Weiguo fell silent for a moment before granting every request. The value of the elite survivors far outweighed the cost of the weapons. Li Weiguo assigned the 3rd Battalion to his command and loaded all requested weaponry into the storage compartment of an armored carrier. He also shared the dedicated military radio channel and encryption key, enabling constant long-distance communication between detachments. Though the frontline fortifications had sustained heavy damage, the mortar emplacements set further to the rear remained intact. Multiple artillery barges suppressed the zombie advance once again. The majority of the horde consisted of ordinary undead, cut down in swathes by the army's full-auto machine gun fire. When the main convoy reached a crossroads, 2 battalions split off to break out along the side roads, drawing a large portion of the zombie mob away and drastically easing pressure on the remaining troops. At the second intersection, 2 more battalions split from the main formation, Wen Ian's unit among them. Notably, as Wen Ian's detachment prepared to depart, Lin Shinran requested permission to join his squad. Wen Ian saw no reason to turn away an additional combat-capable Esper and accepted her request readily. The breakout went extremely smoothly. They quickly pulled away from the horde of zombies surrounding their convoy, with only small scattered groups of mutants attacking along the way, clearing an unobstructed path forward. When Ian finally had a moment to spare and walked toward the passenger bus carrying the elite personnel, he stepped onto the vehicle and immediately spotted a crowd of top specialists from all walks of life seated inside. White-haired professors, formally dressed corporate executives, and a world-famous national female singer, among others. When Ian scanned the group and spoke, "Hello everyone, my name is Wen Ian. I am the ability user tasked with escorting you to safety." At that, one executive smiled and chimed in. "Brother Wen, we'll be relying on you for this escort mission. I'm Li Mingzheng. Once we make it back to safety, I'll make sure to properly thank you." When Ian shook his head, "I'm not here for any rewards. What I need to stress is that the road ahead will be fraught with danger. You must remain inside this vehicle at all times and follow our orders without hesitation. We will do everything in our power to keep you safe." The crowd all nodded in understanding, and when Ian said no more before turning to leave. These people might be elites in their respective fields, but they were not the highest priority group. Professor Chun, whom he had met back at the university, was not among them. The professor rode in the modified SUV when Ian had upgraded, traveling alongside Li Weiguo's main unit. And Li Weiguo showed no intention of returning the vehicle to him. The convoy advanced along the predetermined route, and daylight gradually faded into night. When Ian rolled down his window and glanced outside, everything around them was shrouded in pitch black, illuminated only by the headlights and searchlights of the vehicles. As the convoy passed a food street, a soldier suddenly let out a cry of alarm. "Look, there's a pair of glowing eyes over there." When Ian followed his gaze and saw countless pairs of scarlet eyes peering out from every shopfront, fixed intently on their convoy, his heart tightened. and he instinctively gripped the door handle tightly. When Ian grabbed the walkie-talkie and shouted, "All units, alert. Massive numbers of mutated creatures surrounding us. Prepare for combat." He quickly drew his grenade launcher, locking his gaze on the glowing eyes all around them. A shrill shriek cut through the night air, shattering the tense standoff. Hordes of mutated rats, roughly the size of domestic cats from before the apocalypse, swarmed out from every nook and cranny. The continuous crackle of gunfire echoed without pause. The people on the bus were witnessing such carnage for the first time. Up until now, the military had kept them sheltered in the center of the formation, shielded from the brutal front lines. Su Wanxin stared out the window at the soldiers fighting for their lives. Some were tackled to the ground and torn apart by the rat swarms. Others, surrounded with no escape, pulled the pins on their grenades and charged into the hordes, sacrificing themselves to take down as many mutants as possible. Tears rolled down Su Wanxin's cheeks as she watched. Even when she squeezed her eyes shut, the soldiers' screams and roars reverberated in her ears. Every brutal scene, every desperate battle cry crashed against the worldview she had held her entire life, a tangled storm of emotions surging straight to her heart. A strange stirring rose from the depths of her soul, building higher and higher until it erupted in full force. She snapped her eyes wide open. A wondrous melody welled up from within her, and glowing lines wove through the air to form a musical staff. Tangible notes floating suspended all around her. Everyone on the bus turned to stare at her in shock, but she paid them no mind. The floating notes gently lifted her body off the seat. Her fingertips brushed the virtual staff in midair, and the notes danced in response. A melodious tune echoed out, accompanied by her ethereal female voice. Smoke blurs my eyes, my fingers still trembling softly. The growls all around swallow cries for help, yet you grit your teeth, refusing to fall. Her soothing voice washed over every person on the battlefield, as if an invisible hand smoothed away all fear, rage, and despair weighing on their hearts. When Ian, locked in battle amid the rat swarm, jolted at the sound, he cleaved a pack of lunging mutated rats clean in half with one slash of his blade, then sprinted toward the source of the singing as fast as he could. A young soldier watched his squad leader pull the pin on his grenade and charge unflinchingly into the rats, tears streaming down his face. Overcome with rage, he raised his machine gun and fired wildly. Click, click, click. The gun ran dry of ammunition. He hurled the heavy weapon hard into the rat horde, his gaze falling to the grenade clipped to his belt. He resolved to follow his squad leader's lead, fingers wrapping around the grenade's handle. Just as he prepared to pull the safety pin and rush into the swarm, Su Wanxin's gentle, healing voice reached his ears. Like pure, clear spring water washing away his despair, it reignited his will to survive. He released his grip on the grenade, grabbed a spare rifle lying nearby, and rejoined the fight with renewed vigor. This was only one small example of the song's impact across the entire battlefield. When Ian reached the side of the passenger bus and caught sight of Su Wanxin, she wore a plain white dress, surrounded by floating musical notes that lifted her lightly off the ground. Her long hair drifting softly in the air. Coupled with her delicate, beautiful features, she looked like a celestial maiden descended to the mortal world. Her fingertips tapped lightly in empty space as she hummed her ballad. Your figure never retreats, burning bright against the dark tide. All the pain you swallow clogs your throat. Fear not, I stand right by your side. Her voice was hollow and calming, whispering softly beside every fighter's ear. As Su Wanxin sang, the soldiers' flagging morale steadily climbed back up. What's more, the scarlet glow in the mutated rat's eyes slowly faded away. Su Wanxin's song continued to flow. My left hand catches your trembling. My right hand holds the wind's gentle warmth. Let the evening breeze carry all your tears away. I will stand guard over every ounce of your courage. As the melody wrapped around him, the internal injuries when Ian had sustained fighting a Titan mutant began to mend slowly, and his drained stamina steadily recovered. The scarlet light in the mutated rat's eyes vanished completely. They abandoned their frenzied attacks, scrambling back into every crevice to vanish without a trace. When Ian stood frozen, staring at the scene before him, is this the power of music? Once the rat swarm fled, Su Wanxin fell silent, and the floating notes around her gradually dissipated into thin air. When Ian walked over to her, noticing fine beads of sweat covering her forehead, he smiled at her. You've done incredible work, Miss Su. Su Wanxin shook her head with a soft smile. Go check on the wounded soldiers. I'm perfectly fine. When Ian nodded, I will. I need to talk to you about something later, though. Su Wanxin gave a slight nod, and when Ian turned away. The moment he left, the other passengers crowded around her, showering her with praise and bombarding her with questions about her ability. Su Wanqin ignored them all, wiping the sweat from her forehead and closing her eyes to rest. When Ian left to find the battalion commander and ask about the unit's casualty report, the commander's gaze darkened with sorrow. Assault Battalion 1 originally had 320 troops. We're down to 235, with 26 severely injured and temporarily unable to fight. When Ian let out a heavy sigh, in barely more than 10 minutes of combat, the losses were already devastating. If Su Wanqin hadn't awakened her ability today, none of them might have survived besides himself. He spoke to the commander. You've all fought bravely. See to the wounded, and we need to vacate this area as soon as possible. The battalion commander nodded in acknowledgement and hurried off to resume command. When Ian checked his current energy point tally, current energy points, 4906, the sight of the number lifted his earlier gloomy mood, and a faint smile tugged at his lips. He finally had enough energy points for the mech modification. He brought Su Wanqin to the empty back compartment of an armored vehicle and smiled at her. Miss Su, would you be interested in joining our squad? Unlike the chaotic, mixed population of the main safe haven, our team's bond is pure and loyal. Su Wanqin met his gaze directly and asked only one question. Will you be the one to save this world? When Ian froze, caught off guard by her question, then laughed softly. If I am not the savior this world needs, then no one else alive can fill that role. Su Wanqin suddenly broke into a bright, genuine smile. I believe in you, Ian. When Ian grinned, surprised at how easily she'd agreed to join them. Curious, he tilted his head and asked, By the way, why did you ask if I'm the savior? Su Wanqin answered earnestly. It's my intuition, and it has never led me astray. It warned me away from countless life-threatening dangers before today. I trust what it tells me. When Ian fell silent. Is this the instinct of a true genius? He led Su Wanqin over to the armored vehicle assigned to his squad. When she climbed aboard, Lin Xinyan reacted the most dramatically, shaking Wen Yishu's arm excitedly and squealing. It's Goddess Su Wanqin. She pulled a pen out of her backpack, holding it out to Su Wanqin with sparkling eyes. Goddess Wanqin, could you sign my clothes for me? Su Wanqin took the pen and smiled gently. Of course. Where would you like me to sign? Lin Xinyan gestured casually to the front of her jacket. Sign right here on my shirt, please. Su Wanqin did as she asked, writing her signature neatly across the fabric. When Ian shook his head with a quiet laugh and stepped out of the vehicle to find the battalion commander and finalize their travel route, he pointed to the map spread between them. Commander Lu, we're roughly 30 kilometers from the main base. Even without delays, the drive will take at least 2 hours. Traveling through the night is far too risky. I suggest we find somewhere to camp for the night and resume our journey at dawn tomorrow. Commander Lu nodded, tapping a large supermarket marked on the map. This supermarket was never fully licensed to open for business, but it has a finished underground parking lot built from a repurposed air raid shelter. We can take shelter there. When Ian studied the map, the location was only 2 kilometers from their current position. He immediately agreed to the plan. The convoy set off once more. When Ian collected several chunks of dead mutated rat flesh and placed them inside his biological storage backpack. This was his first time using the item. The moment the meat entered the bag, its surface squirmed faintly. The flesh slowly softened and dissolved as the backpack's internal mechanism digested it. When Ian marveled at the strange device, but seeing it would take time to fully break down the tissue, he turned his attention elsewhere. They reached the supermarket without incident, and the entire convoy drove down into the underground parking lot. The space was completely empty, not a single zombie in sight. When Ian silently praised Commander Lu's judgment, it was truly an ideal shelter. The group walked through the silent underground garage, everything shrouded in deep shadow lit only by the vehicle's searchlights. Their voices echoed off the concrete walls, cobwebs draped across dark corners, lending the space an eerie atmosphere. They were about to park the vehicles and set up camp when a soldier's panicked shout cut through the quiet. There's a monster. I just saw a multi-legged shadow dart past. Everyone tensed, instantly on high alert. When Ian frowned, deep in thought, a multi-legged mutant? A giant spider? Or mutated ants? He shook the thought aside. They needed to secure a safe resting spot first before investigating further. The group claimed a large corner of the garage to set up camp. They parked all vehicles in a fan formation facing outward, turning on every searchlight to flood the surrounding area with bright light. The soldiers split into rotating night watch shifts, while the rest seized the chance to rest. The feared monster attack never came. The night passed peacefully without incident. When Ian checked the time, 7 o'clock in the morning, he also glanced at the system's upgrade countdown. System upgrade countdown, 4 hours, 39 minutes, and 56 seconds. He unzipped the side pouch of his biological backpack and found a thick white paste resembling toothpaste stored inside. He dabbed a small amount onto his finger and tasted it. Completely flavorless. He paid the backpack no further mind afterward. Their squad had more than enough food supplies to spare. The convoy prepared to depart once more, everyone filing back into their vehicles as the line of cars slowly rolled forward. As they reached the garage exit, they found the entire passage sealed shut by thick spider silk webs. Giant spiders the size of millstones crawled across the webbing, pairs of blazing scarlet eyes fixed unblinkingly on the convoy. A chill ran down everyone's spines. Lin Xinyan tugged Su Wanqin's sleeve nervously. "Sister Wanqin, can your singing drive these spiders away too?" Su Wanqin gave an awkward, polite smile and shook her head. "I'm afraid not. Spiders are cold-blooded creatures. My melody won't calm them." Lin Xinyan's usual cheerful expression faded into rare gravity. She stepped in front of Su Wanqin, shielding her with her body. "Don't worry, Sister Wanqin. I'll protect you." Su Wanqin looked softly at the girl standing guard before her. More mutated spiders crawled out from every shadow, surging toward them in a dense mass covering the floor and ceiling, completely cutting off their retreat. When Ian's mind raced to formulate a plan, he turned to Commander Lu beside him and asked, "Do your troops carry any Molotov cocktails?" Commander Lu nodded. "We have them, but only a dozen or so in total." When Ian nodded in understanding, "That will be enough. Have your men create a wall of flame around our perimeter to block the spiders. Then follow me as we charge for the exit." Commander Lu quickly relayed the order to his soldiers. When Ian spoke into his squad's private communication channel to Zhang Hao, "How? Keep the girls safe at the rear." Zhang Hao responded with a slightly troubled expression. Right now, he was likely the weakest fighter in their squad. He might end up needing protection from the others if danger struck, but as the only male tasked with guarding them, he would stand at the front line regardless. After issuing his orders, when Ian shouted the command to advance, dozens of Molotov cocktails arced through the air and shattered across the ground, walls of blazing fire springing up to hold the mutated spiders at bay. He activated his flame-edged battle blade and charged forward at the head of the group, firing his grenade launcher left and right to blast swarms of spiders apart, tearing gaping holes through the thick silk webs. When Ian's assault stirred the spider horde into a frenzy, every mutant clinging to the webbing swarmed down to attack them en masse. Realizing the grenade launcher's firepower was limited against such vast numbers, he holstered the weapon and wielded his flaming blade with both hands in rapid sweeping strikes. Every spider that drew near was sliced into pieces, yet countless more poured in to take their place. Their 8 sharp legs scraped across when Ian's armored suit, leaving only faint white scratch marks on the reinforced plating. Though dozens of mutated spiders crawled all over his body, the armor shielded him completely, and he pressed steadily forward without pause. A faint buzzing hum echoed from the web-blocked exit ahead. When Ian lifted his gaze, a colossal mutated spider, nearly 5 meters in length, crept across the thick silk strands, the low thrumming sound emanating from its weight pressing against the web. The smaller spiders covering when Ian shifted their attack strategy. Instead of slashing at his armor with their legs, they began spitting thick streams of silk, attempting to bind him tight. At first, he paid little mind to the threads. His mech's powerful hydraulic frame could stand toe-to-toe with a Titan mutant. After all, ordinary spider silk could never restrain him. But just as he neared the webbing blocking the exit, he suddenly felt immense resistance dragging at his armor. He reached down to tear the silk away, only to find the strands had woven into a thick, unbreakable mesh. He tried slicing the bindings with his battle blade, yet the tangled silk wrapped around his joints, restricting his movement so severely he could no longer reach the threads clinging to his torso. With no other choice, he sent an urgent plea for help over the squad channel. The rest of the team fought in coordinated formation at the rear. Zhang Hao and Lin Xinyan cut down any spiders that slipped through the fire barrier. When Ishu rushed to stabilize wounded fighters and minimize casualties, Lin Xueqing and Zhang Jiayi provided long-range fire support. Su Wanqin stood apart, layered supportive buffs over the entire squad, floating slightly off the ground amid swirling musical notes as her ethereal song echoed in every fighter's ears. "Listen, the final war drum beats loud within my veins. I stand atop the rubble, igniting notes of hope. Do not let your eyes fall shut, my warriors. Let my voice be your blade and your shield." The haunting, clear melody washed away all the tension and terror building during the brutal fight. Trapped and on the verge of being wrapped completely in silk, when Ian's frayed nerves calmed instantly, his anxious haste melting into sharp, unshakable focus. Shadow daggers materialized beside him, swirling rapidly to slice through every strand of binding silk. Freed from the webbing, he darted between the spider swarms like a dancing butterfly, never giving them a chance to ensnare him again. When Ian charged straight into the massive wall of spider silk, against his flame-wreathed battle blade, the thick webbing tore as easily as paper, splitting open a gap 2 to 3 meters wide. He'd even entertained the thought of recreating Zhao Yun's legendary 7 charges through enemy lines. When he reached the center of the web barrier, the giant spider above loosed a stream of venom directly at him. He dodged just barely, but a glob of thick green slop splattered across his armor plating. The substance clung to the metal like heavy glue, slowing his movements and weighing him down. As the first stream of venom landed, dozens more mutated spiders unleashed their toxic secretions toward him. When Ian's expression hardened, twisting his body to evade the streams as best he could. Still, more venom splashed across his leg plating. The toxin could not penetrate the armor, yet its adhesive strength rivaled industrial superglue. Fear and frustration surged back into his mind. Enraged, he drove his flaming blade into the ground, activating the palm-mounted energy cannons built into his armor and firing non-stop at every spider preparing to spit venom. Crimson energy beams blasted through the mutants, felling one spider with every shot, but for every creature that fell, 2 more surged forward to take its place. Su Wanqin finished a verse of her song, and her voice rose into a powerful, soaring crescendo. By the oath of my song, I grant you unyielding iron resolve. Let every heartbeat roar like war hammers striking steel. Scars are metals worn with pride, fear cast far from this field. Hear the surging tide of my melody. Your blades shall cut through every foe in your way. The rousing song reverberated deep in everyone's hearts, stoking blazing fervor within them all. The flames from the Molotov cocktails had dimmed, flickering as if they would sputter out at any moment, while more mutated spiders swarmed through the fire. Despair crept over every person present, yet the moment the song rang out, surging passion ignited in their chests. A machine gunner who'd stood guard through the late night and endured grueling non-stop combat looked thoroughly worn out, bloodshot veins lining his eyes. He braced his heavy machine gun, the weapon spitting continuous fire as he strafed the horde of mutated spiders relentlessly. Then the soaring melody cut through the chaos. Warmth flooded his heart, spreading down through every limb. All traces of exhaustion melted away instantly, his strength surging back in full force. Fueled by newfound vigor, he hoisted the machine gun higher and fired without pause. This same transformation washed over every fighter on the field. When Ishu had been rushing to back up her companions non-stop, overusing her psychic powers left her with a throbbing headache, cold sweat dripping down her forehead. But bathed in Su Wanqin's singing, a steady stream of warmth flowed from her heart straight to her mind. It soothed her discomfort and continuously replenished the energy drained by her abilities. Peering through the torn spider silk, when Ishu spotted Ian trapped and surrounded, she pushed off the ground with the tips of her toes, launching her entire body soaring forward through the air. She landed at the front line of the battle, where her psychic reach could cover Ian. Focusing her power, she stripped all toxic venom off his mech suit. Trapped at the center of the spider web, Ian instantly felt a tremendous weight lift off his body, and Su Wanqin's song drifted into his ears right at that moment. Battle lust blazed through his veins. He twisted around and wrenched the battle blade embedded in the ground free. Right then, he felt unstoppable. No force in existence could stand in his way without facing his blade. Ignoring the mutated spiders poised to spray venom down from the silk strands above him, he swung his blade repeatedly, slicing through the tangled webbing all around. One Ishu split her focus 3 ways at once, blocking venom streams aimed at Ian, slaying venom-spewing spiders with shadow daggers, and cutting down any spiders that lunged toward herself. Su Wanqin's cheeks glistened with sweat after singing non-stop for so long, and the musical notes swirling around her gradually faded away. She floated back down to solid ground, her strength spent, and collapsed backward. Lin Xueqing caught her and guided her onto an armored vehicle. Fueled by Ian's unrelenting assault, a clear path was quickly carved through the spider web, allowing the whole group to flee the basement. The swarm of mutated spiders chased after them, driven frantic by the sunlight, their attacks growing wilder and more ferocious. After pursuing the group a short distance further, the spider horde retreated like a receding tide. When Ian let out a deep breath of relief and sought out Battalion Commander Liu to ask about the casualty count. The number he received weighed heavy on his heart, 189 lives lost. He drew in a sharp breath and clapped a heavy hand on Battalion Commander Liu's shoulder. The Federation will remember every one of them. Battalion Commander Liu nodded numbly. When Ian briefly mapped out their onward route with him before the group pressed forward again. First-tier zombies grew far more common along the road, matching the number of ordinary undead. Overall zombie numbers had thinned drastically, however, and not a single second-tier zombie crossed their path. The group traveled unimpeded until they reached the shelter, a town built into the mountainside. The area had once been developed by real estate firms into a famous mountain ecological town, filled with countless residences and complete supporting facilities. Barriers and sandbags lined the shelter's perimeter, soldiers standing rigidly on full alert, while crews of laborers labored to erect a tall outer wall. One detail struck him as strange, though the ground outside was littered with zombie corpses. No living undead laid siege to the walls, a stark contrast to the all-out zombie blockade they'd anticipated. When Ian pondered the sight and quickly pieced together the truth, intelligent-type zombies must be conserving their forces, holding back to wait until they evolved enough power to storm the shelter in full force. His expression turned grave. For now, humanity held the upper hand, yet if massive swarms of high-level undead, like Titan zombies, appeared, it would spell catastrophe for all living people. The half-finished outer walls would offer little meaningful protection against such threats. When Ian had no plans to take refuge inside the facility, he left his armored vehicle and all its stored weaponry for Battalion Commander Liu's unit to use as they entered the shelter. Battalion Commander Liu retrieved a satellite phone from the vehicle and handed it over. The commanding officer ordered me to give this to you before we parted. You can contact the military at any time if you need assistance. He walked when Ian through the device's operation, then boarded his armored truck and departed without further words. When Ian watched their convoy enter the military shelter before climbing into his own armored vehicle and driving off, his destination was the nearest luxury villa district. In his eyes, the villas offered sparse foot traffic, spacious living quarters, and abundant supplies. The perfect temporary base of operations. Their journey remained smooth, not a single second-tier zombie crossing their path. They arrived at the villa compound gates without incident. The grounds stood empty, devoid of any undead, only scattered pools of dried blood staining the pavement. When Ian frowned, a faint sense of unease settling over him. Yet they'd come this far. They had no choice but to venture inside and explore. As the group stepped into the compound, Zhang Hao grinned at Zhang Jiai beside him. Sis, who would have thought your brother would get you a villa to stay in this fast? Zhang Jiai rolled her eyes behind her helmet and ignored his teasing. Lin Xinran grabbed Su Wanqin's arm, shaking it excitedly. Sister Wanqin, we're going to live in a villa together. This is amazing. Wen Yishu wandered about, wide-eyed with curiosity, while Su Wanqin and Lin Xueqing, both born into wealth, remained far calmer and composed. They were about to pick a random villa to occupy when disaster struck without warning. A streak of blue streaked down from the sky like a silent bolt of lightning, diving straight for Su Wanqin. Wen Yishu reacted first, detecting the blue figure the instant it entered her psychic radius. She only had enough time to yank Su Wanqin sideways with her powers. A gust of fierce wind whipped past the exact spot where Su Wanqin had stood mere seconds earlier. Everyone finally caught a clear look at the attacker, a mutated parrot, grown to the size of a full-grown eagle. When Ian raised his arm to counterattack, when two more figures lunged out from either side, charging toward Zhang Jiai and Lin Xinran respectively. When Ian moved to shield Zhang Jiai, but a massive python suddenly burst out from a hidden corner and struck at him instead. He barely managed to twist around, watching its enormous jaws expand larger and larger in his vision before the serpent swallowed him whole in one gulp. Darkness swallowed when Ian entirely. Corrosive stomach acid sizzled against the exterior of his mech suit, eating away at its plating with a harsh fizzing sound. When Ishu's anxious voice crackled over the helmet comms. Brother, are you alright? When Ian reassured her. I'm fine. Its stomach acid can't break through my mech armor. With that, he activated his battle blade, gripped the hilt tightly, and stabbed hard into the soft stomach wall surrounding him. The blade sank in like a stick plunged into thick mud, slowly tearing open a jagged gash. The python outside writhed violently, overcome by searing agony. Trapped inside, when Ian was tossed back and forth as the serpent convulsed, immense crushing force bearing down on his body. He clung firmly to his battle blade with both hands to steady himself. Outside the python, the rest of the group got a clear view of the two new attackers, a mutated golden retriever lunging for Zhang Jiai, and a mutated Maine Coon cat targeting Lin Xinran. Zhang Hao stepped between Zhang Jiai and the golden retriever, wielding his combat staff. He activated the weapon and swung it hard at the charging beast. The blow sent the mutated dog stumbling, and it flew into a rage, tackling Zhang Hao to the ground, jaws slashing to tear him apart. Zhang Jiai reacted instantly, drawing her plasma pistol and firing. Streaks of plasma burned dark charred holes into the golden fur of the mutated retriever. Racked with pain, the dog released Zhang Hao, snarling furiously at Zhang Jiai. Woof! Yip wolf! It charged her again. Zhang Jiai kept firing as she stumbled backward, retreating step by step. The mutated retriever closed the distance fast, lifting its massive paw to swat her down. On the other side, the Maine Coon clashed with Wen Yishu and Lin Xinran. The mutated cat boasted a towering frame and lightning-fast reflexes. It dodged the two shadow daggers floating through the air while launching repeated strikes at Lin Xinran. Each attack blocked at the last second by Wen Yishu's psychic force pulling the girl clear. Mid-fight, Wen Yishu sensed Zhang Jiai's mortal danger across the courtyard. She abandoned her fight against the cat to focus all her power on protecting Zhang Jiai. She dragged Zhang Jiai backward with her mind and erected a psychic barrier to block the retriever's blows. Yet the mutated dog's strength was overwhelming, and her barrier could not fully absorb its strikes. One of its paws grazed Zhang Jiai after all. She flew backward, crashing hard onto the pavement and falling unconscious. With Wen Yishu's protection withdrawn, Lin Xinran suffered a brutal blow from the Maine Coon, deep gashes tearing her skin open and spilling nonstop blood. The cat had only toyed with her prey rather than delivering a killing blow, buying her just enough time to survive. Zhang Hao stared at his motionless sister sprawled on the ground, his eyes instantly flooding red. He screamed her name repeatedly over the squad communication channel. "Sis, answer me. Are you okay?" Believing his only remaining family dead, hot tears streamed down his cheeks. His mother had passed away from an incurable illness when he was 16, and his father had died in a car accident rushing to the hospital to visit her. After losing both parents, only Zhang Jiai remained. Though they used to bicker constantly, they grew far more considerate and understanding of one another, supporting each other through every hard day. Now he had lost the last person he had left. His gaze locked rigidly onto the mutated golden retriever before him. Rage and hatred burned away all rational thought, one single thought echoing endlessly in his mind. Kill it, even if I die trying. A strange surging power welled up in his chest, spreading to every limb. Though he paid no mind to the shift in his body, he charged toward the mutated retriever, which had paused to lick its plasma burns. His pace quickened faster and faster, his knuckles wide around the combat staff. To the onlookers, Zhang Hao's speed neared the absolute physical limit of a human, even outpacing Lin Xinran's agility. He closed the gap in mere heartbeats, raising his staff and slamming it straight down onto the retriever's skull. The mutated dog collapsed to the ground, dazed and disoriented. Zhang Hao rained blow after blow without pause. The retriever whimpered in agony, yet Zhang Hao remained blind to its cries, driven solely by unbridled fury as he struck again and again. High above, the mutated parrot dove once more, setting its sights on Su Wanqin. Being the only member of the group without heavy protective gear made her an easy target. Lin Xueqing loosed arrow after arrow at the diving bird, yet the parrot evaded every shot with effortless ease. Just as the parrot closed in on Su Wanqin, glowing musical notes swirled around her body, a beautiful melody resonating outward. At the critical moment, the notes lifted her and shifted her safely aside. As the melody echoed across the compound, a pair of glowing green eyes materialized from the shadows, fixed unblinkingly on Su Wanqin in the distance. The parrot missed its target again, circling midair in a furious rage, squawking curses nonstop. Damn it! Damn it! Lin Xueqing's mouth twitched, unable to hold back a sarcastic remark. Well, look at that. A foul-mouthed foreign bird. The parrot dove down a second time, this time targeting the wounded Lin Xinran. Before it could land an attack, the Maine Coon locked in combat nearby swatted it hard, sending the parrot tumbling through the air. Shaken and infuriated, the parrot squawked insults. Stupid cat, you worthless beast. The words barely left its beak when a streak of crimson shot out of the shadows at blinding speed. A mutated red fox clamped its jaws shut around the squawking parrot, cutting off its shouts instantly. The bird flapped its wings wildly in a desperate struggle, then fell completely still after a few short seconds. The group saw the fox clearly then. It dropped the lifeless parrot's body onto the pavement before pouncing toward the only remaining combatant, the Maine Coon. Cat and fox clashed in a brutal brawl. Realizing it could not win the fight, the Maine Coon seized an opening and fled the scene. The red fox made no move to chase, instead walking over to the dead parrot's corpse. The battlefield's fighting finally came to an end. Zhang Hao continued battering the mangled skull of the fallen golden retriever with his combat staff, without pause. Meanwhile, the giant python that had swallowed when Ian lay motionless on the ground. When Ian tore a massive opening through its belly and climbed out from within.